Ezra Bridger, known by his codename Spectre 6, was a youthful human with a connection to the Force, navigating the harsh streets of Lothal's capital city firmly under Imperial rule. His survival depended on his involvement in criminal activities until Kanan Jarrus intervened, offering him mentorship in the ways of the Jedi. Thus, Ezra joined the Ghost Crew's fight against the Empire as a valued member of the rebellion. Welcome back to Channel Frederator. Today we're going to take a look at the life of Ezra Bridger. Before we get started, make sure that you like this video if you like it and subscribe if you want more just like it. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Biography. Early life. Growing up on Lothal. Ezra Bridger entered the world on Lothal, his parents Ephraim and Mira welcoming him on the very day the Galactic Empire, led by Darth Sidious, solidified its grip on the galaxy. Determined to resist the Empire's oppression, his parents launched public broadcasts opposing its tyranny. Tragically, their defiance led to their demise when the Empire silenced them, marking their home as forbidden territory. Left orphaned at 7, Ezra found refuge in an abandoned communication tower dubbed Ezra's Tower, where he honed his survival skills. Under the tutelage of Furpil Walloway, a cunning pawnshop owner, Ezra delved into the world of deception and thievery, learning to exploit his surroundings for sustenance. From scanning tourists to pilfering from the Empire, Ezra navigated the criminal underworld, occasionally crossing paths with Marina Cry, a like-minded companion. Unbeknownst to him, Ezra possessed latent Force abilities, sporadically glimpsing the future, a power he had yet to comprehend. Gladiator Night. At the bustling capital city spaceport, Ezra found himself peddling tickets for a thrilling Gladiator Night bout, featuring Borbig Drob, a formidable Hook, against the fierce Fiorin Warjack. Amidst the bustling crowd, Marina approached, revealing her family's impending departure for Alderaan to escape the Empire's grasp. Bid farewell by his friend, Ezra's day took an unexpected turn when he crossed paths with the notorious bounty hunter Bossk near the Hound's Tooth. Employed as a guide, Ezra led Bossk to a tavern, unwittingly embroiling himself in a deadly confrontation with the likes of Engrigo and the Cratchell twins. Amidst the chaos, Ezra aided Bossk in incapacitating Gronson's shifty Takaro only to face the encroaching threat of Imperial authorities, suspected of orchestrating the encounter. Forced to flee, Bossk and Ezra evaded capture on a speeder bike, albeit not without injury to the Trandoshan hunter. In a twist of fate, Ezra found himself tending to Bosk's wounds in his tower, only to realize the true nature of his visitor's intentions, as the disguised bounty hunter sought assistance in pursuing his next bounty at the spaceport's posting agency. At the Imperial Enforcement Data Corps, Ezra sought information on Herdringer, only to discover the officer had long since perished. Bossk deduced that Herdringer's successor, Jenks, had orchestrated their predicament, revealing their prior connection with Takaro in the gladiator arenas of Nerian. Their investigation attracted Jenks' attention, prompting a skirmish with stormtroopers. Escaping once more, they sought refuge at Walloway's pawnshop, witnessing Jenks' ruthless act of violence against the shopkeep. Despite their efforts, Walloway succumbed to his wounds in Ezra's arms. Persuaded by Bossk, Ezra accompanied him to Monad Outpost for a showdown with Jenks during Gladiator Night. In a daring move, Ezra used a pilfered Imperial comlink to summon reinforcements, while Bossk exposed Jenks' treachery to the arena's spectators. Ezra incapacitated Jenks before Imperial forces intervened. True to his word, Bossk rewarded Ezra with the contents of his strongbox, a modest sum of 75 credits, bidding the young apprentice farewell. Investigating a downed TIE fighter. On his journey back to his tower, Ezra stumbled upon a VCX-100 being pursued by an Imperial TIE fighter. As the fighter met its demise, crashing nearby, Ezra's curiosity drove him to investigate. Within the wreckage, he discovered an Imperial pilot named Valen Rudor trapped in the cockpit. Despite Rudor's disdainful demeanor, Ezra assisted him in escaping the wreckage. Under the guise of aiding Rudor, Ezra cunningly pilfered valuable equipment from the cockpit. Securing Rudor's helmet for his collection, Ezra swiftly departed the scene, revealing his true intentions to the disgruntled pilot. Angered by Ezra's deception, Rudor attempted to retaliate, firing upon him with the fighter's lasers. Through his connection with the Force, Ezra deftly evaded the onslaught. Employing his energy slingshot, he incapacitated Rudor by electrocuting the cockpit, rendering him unconscious. With his ill-gotten gains in hand, Ezra returned to his tower, satisfied with his spoils. Meeting the Lothal rebels. Some time later, following the ominous passage of a Star Destroyer over Capital City, Ezra embarked on his speeder to investigate. There he bore witness to a daring rebel strike led by Kanan Jarrus, Zeb Aurelios, and Sabine Wren. Seizing the opportunity amidst the skirmish, Ezra intervened, commandeering one of the stolen speeders during the chaos. As the rebels engaged Imperial forces, Ezra deftly maneuvered through the streets, evading pursuit. However, his escape was short-lived as the Imperial TIE fighter joined the chase, swiftly incapacitating his speeder. In a stroke of luck, the rebels' ship, the Ghost, arrived, obliterating the TIE fighter just in time. Recognizing the familiar vessel from past encounters, Ezra was aided aboard as the rebels made a daring escape, pursued by 4 more TIE fighters. Following their successful evasion of pursuit, Ezra and the rebels made their way back to Lothal, touching down near Tarkin Town, a refugee settlement bearing the name of the notorious Grand Moff Wilhuff Tarkin. This enclave provided sanctuary to farmers dispossessed by Imperial decree. Joining forces with Zeb and Sabine, Ezra assisted in distributing food salvaged from the pilfered crates to the needy inhabitants of Tarkin Town. Later, returning to the Ghost, Ezra's connection to the Force guided him to Kanan's quarters, where he stumbled upon a remarkable discovery, a holocron and a lightsaber. However, his exploration was abruptly halted by Kanan's unexpected return, resulting in his swift dismissal from the cabin. To prevent any impulsive actions, the crew's astromech droid, Chopper, diligently supervised Ezra's activities, ensuring he refrained from engaging in reckless behavior. Mission to free Wookiee prisoners. Later, Ezra remained aboard the Ghost, under the command of Hera Syndulla, the Twilight Captain, as the rebels unveiled a new mission, to rescue Wookiee captives bound for a cruel fate in an Imperial slave labor camp. Unbeknownst to them, the mission was a setup. Urged by Hera to warn the others, Ezra reluctantly ventured onto the Imperial transport ship, just in time to alert Kanan, Zeb, and Sabine. Despite their swift attempt to flee, Ezra found himself captured by the cunning ISB agent Kallus, abandoned by Zeb. Intent on using Ezra as bait, Kallus sought to ensnare the rebels. Doubting his comrades would risk a rescue, Ezra found himself imprisoned upon Kallus's Star Destroyer, the Lawbringer. Yet, from within his confines, Ezra discovered the truth contained within the stolen holocron. A message from Obi-Wan Kenobi, forewarning surviving Jedi of the Empire's rise. Seizing the opportunity, Ezra escaped his cell and utilized an Imperial helmet's transmitter to intercept vital information regarding the Wookiee prisoner's true destination. With newfound knowledge, Ezra reunited with the rebels and aided in their daring escape, ensuring the freedom of the captive Wookiees. He lent his aid to the rebels during the rescue operation, freeing the imprisoned Wookiees only to find themselves ensnared in an Imperial ambush. In a decisive moment, Kanan emerged, igniting the lightsaber discovered by Ezra, revealing his identity as a Jedi. Observing a stormtrooper in pursuit of a young Wookiee, Ezra intervened, leading to a confrontation with Kallus. Despite being cornered, Ezra and the Wookiee were saved by their rebel allies, narrowly escaping capture. Following the successful rescue, Ezra escorted the liberated Wookiees to safety before returning to his sanctuary in Lothal's tower, clutching Kanan's lightsaber. There, Kanan imparted wisdom on the Force, recognizing Ezra's latent potential. Presented with an opportunity to join the rebellion and embark on the path of a Jedi, Ezra faced a pivotal choice that would shape his destiny. Rebellion. Salvage mission on Garel. Following a harrowing encounter with TIE fighters and a looming Star Destroyer during a botched salvage operation, Ezra and his newfound comrades faced dwindling supplies of food, explosives, and fuel, jeopardizing their operations. Recognizing the urgency of their situation, Kanan proposed a risky venture, a theft job for the notorious crime lord Cicatro Vizago, targeting Imperial shipments on the planet Garel. Embarking on an interplanetary voyage, Ezra played a pivotal role in facilitating the rebels' infiltration, pilfering the discovered cargo, T-7 ion disruptors, banned by the Imperial Senate for their lethal capabilities. The revelation of these weapons' involvement in the devastating Imperial massacre on Zeb's homeworld, Lasan, stirred deep distress within the group. As Ezra, Kanan, and Sabine secured the contraband aboard the Ghost, Zeb valiantly held off Imperial forces. Their escape, however, unwittingly entangled them with the droid duo C-3PO and R2-D2, inadvertently embarked on a clandestine mission from Alderaanian Senator Bail Organa. During their rendezvous with Vizago, a misunderstanding led C-3PO to trigger an emergency alert, exposing the rebels' position to Agent Kallus and his Imperial cohorts. With Vizago's betrayal and the Imperials closing in, the rebels were forced to confront their adversaries head-on. As chaos ensued, Ezra's latent connection to the Force emerged, aiding Zeb in a dire confrontation with Kallus. Despite Kallus's initial advantage, Ezra's intervention turned the tide, allowing the crew to escape with their injured comrade. In the aftermath, Ezra earned Zeb's gratitude, while Kanan announced the commencement of his Jedi training, marking the beginning of a new chapter in Ezra's journey. Errand run at the Lothal marketplace. In a gesture of gratitude for saving Zeb's life, Ezra and the Lasat shared quarters aboard the Ghost. However, their differing personalities frequently clashed, leading to tension between the two. Their ongoing discord prompted Hera to assign them a joint supply run to the marketplace in the nearby village of Lothal. Despite their initial success in acquiring the requested items, they encountered a setback when unable to procure the elusive Meloruns, a fruit native to Lothal. Their quest for the coveted fruit led them to a crate already sold to the Empire. Despite their attempts to liberate some, they were apprehended, forcing them to flee. After a brief separation, Ezra and Zeb reunited, with Zeb piloting a commandeered TIE fighter. While navigating their way back to the Ghost, they stumbled upon a farm under Imperial attack, recognized by Ezra as the home of Morad Sumar, a friend of his parents. Acting on instinct and aided by the Force, Ezra liberated Sumar and his wife from captivity before safely returning to the Ghost. Through their shared trials, Ezra and Zeb formed an unlikely friendship, strengthened by their joint experiences and newfound camaraderie. Rescue mission on the Spire. Ezra's Jedi training proved challenging for both him and Kanan, as the latter's knowledge of Jedi teachings was limited due to his incomplete training during the Jedi Order's demise. Doubts began to plague Kanan, feeling inadequate to guide Ezra's development, realizing the need for a more seasoned mentor with greater understanding and discipline in the ways of the Force. Upon learning of Jedi Master Luminara Unduli's purported imprisonment in the Spire Penitentiary on Stygian Prime, Ezra joined the rebels on a daring rescue mission. Despite initial disappointment at the prospect of being passed on to Luminara for training, Ezra embarked on the mission. However, their hopes were shattered upon discovering Luminara's demise, her remains manipulated by the sinister Grand Inquisitor to ensnare any surviving Jedi. Throughout the tumultuous engagement and subsequent escape alongside Zeb and Sabine, both master and apprentice found themselves working in tandem, fostering a newfound understanding and synergy between them. Despite the mission's failure, the experience served to deepen the bond between Kanan and Ezra, laying the foundation for their continued growth and partnership. Infiltrating the Imperial Academy. Subsequently, Ezra received a crucial assignment: infiltrate Lothal's Imperial Academy under the guise of a cadet named Dev Morgan, to procure a decoder containing vital information about a powerful kyber crystal. Accompanied by Chopper, disguised as an Imperial astromech droid, and with Sabine and Zeb on standby for extraction, Ezra ventured into the heavily guarded academy. Despite encountering unexpected delays due to heightened security, Ezra managed to buy himself another day with the aid of his rebel allies. Teaming up with fellow cadet Zer Leonis, Ezra successfully pilfered the decoder from Agent Callus's office. Following the plan, Ezra entrusted the device to Chopper, who relayed it to Sabine and Zeb for transmission to Kanan and Hera. Their swift action led to the interception and destruction of the Imperial convoy transporting the kyber crystal. Complications arose when Ezra and Zer discovered another cadet, Jai Kel, harboring Force sensitivity, attracting the attention of the Grand Inquisitor. Persuading Jai to flee with them, Ezra devised a diversionary attack on the Academy with his rebel comrades the next day. Seizing the opportunity amidst the chaos, Ezra and Jai commandeered an ATDP, evading pursuit. Storming the Academy's defenses, the rebels made their daring escape on a land speeder back to the Ghost, with Hera arranging for Jai and his mother's safe passage into hiding. Meanwhile, Zer chose to remain behind, determined to uncover the fate of his sister, Dara. Incident at Fort Anaxis. Later, Ezra, alongside Hera and Sabine, embarked on a mission orchestrated by Fulcrum, Hera's clandestine contact and a prominent figure within the rebel underground. During their flight in the Ghost's auxiliary shuttle, the Phantom, the vessel faced a barrage of attacks from TIE fighters, prompting Ezra to inquire if he could pilot. However, overwhelmed by the intensity of the situation, he hesitated, admitting he wasn't prepared, especially with more TIEs closing in. Upon their return to the Ghost, Ezra remained aboard with Kanan, Zeb, and Chopper, while Hera and Sabine departed to rendezvous with Fulcrum. Their journey led them to Fort Anaxis, a remote asteroid base steeped in history from the Clone Wars era. Unfortunately, a gas leak on the Phantom, unnoticed by Ezra and Zeb, left Hera and Sabine vulnerable to an onslaught of Fernox inhabiting the area. Resolving their disagreement over the oversight, Ezra conferred with Kanan, who had sensed the danger through the Force and overheard their dispute. Preparing for a rescue operation, Ezra valiantly held off the Fernox to buy time for Hera and Sabine. Despite their efforts, the overwhelming numbers of creatures posed a formidable threat. In a daring move, Sabine intervened to save Ezra from a Fernox grasp, downplaying her actions when he expressed gratitude. With the situation escalating, Hera initiated a bold maneuver, utilizing the Ghost's capabilities to repel the creatures as they departed the asteroid. Despite their successful escape, Ezra and Zeb faced Hera's stern reproach for their oversight, emphasizing the need for greater vigilance to avert future crises endangering the crew. Empire Day. As Ezra's 15th birthday approached, Kanan intensified his efforts in Ezra's training, adopting a stricter approach. Outside Old Joe's pit stop, Kanan attempted to impart a lesson on connection with other beings, but Ezra's sullen demeanor hindered their progress. The sudden appearance of 3 TIE fighters overhead heightened Ezra's apprehension, prompting him and Kanan to join the other rebels indoors. Inside, they learned that the TIE pilots were scouring the cantina for Tsibo, a friend of Ezra's parents who had aligned with the Imperial Information Office following their arrest. Troubled by Tsibo's predicament, Ezra retreated to his tower to contemplate the situation. In a moment of clarity, he sensed his parents' presence through the Force and realized that Tsibo would likely be at their shuttered family home. Reuniting with the Ghost crew after sabotaging the Empire Day celebration in Capital City, Ezra guided Kanan and Sabine to the abandoned house, while Zeb returned to the ship. There they discovered Tsibo, suffering from a mental affliction caused by an AJ6 cybernetic implant, which had inadvertently stored critical Imperial intelligence, including a 5-year plan for Lothal. Reflecting on his parents' anti-Imperial activities, Ezra showed Sabine the equipment they had used, deepening his connection to his past. Recognizing Tsibo's value to the rebellion, the Ghost crew agreed to smuggle him off-world, acknowledging the pivotal role he could play in their fight against the Empire. Ezra played a pivotal role in aiding his fellow rebels in commandeering an Imperial troop transport, facilitating Sabine's escape with Kanan and Tsibo through a military blockade. Despite encountering Imperial resistance, they managed to evade their pursuers, including Agent Callus, reaching the highway amidst a fury of Imperial speeder bikes and another troop transport. Engaging in a fierce skirmish to fend off their assailants, the rebels were eventually rescued by the Ghost, and made their escape into space, closely pursued by TIE fighters under the command of the Grand Inquisitor. Amidst the chaos, Tsibo briefly regained lucidity, revealing to Ezra his regret for not being able to save his parents due to fear. Overwhelmed by emotion, Ezra lashed out, blaming Tsibo for their plight and refusing to heed further explanations. Despite Sabine's attempts to encourage dialogue between Ezra and Tsibo, the young Jedi remained resolute in his anger. Upon discovering a tracking beacon placed on the Phantom by the Grand Inquisitor, Kanan and Ezra devised a plan to lure the Empire away from the Ghost by journeying to an abandoned clone base. Kanan hoped to utilize this opportunity to teach Ezra to connect with other beings and utilize the base's inhabitants against the Imperials. However, Ezra's apprehension stemmed not from the creatures but from the looming specter of his parents' fate. Through the Force, Ezra finally found the strength to forgive Tsibo, overcoming his fear and establishing a connection with the Fernox inhabiting the base. Tapping into the dark side, the Grand Inquisitor, accompanied by a squadron of stormtroopers, descended upon the base. Ezra and Kanan directed the Fernox to assail the troopers, initiating a fierce confrontation. Engaging in a lightsaber duel with the Inquisitor, Kanan found himself in peril, prompting Ezra to intervene in defense of his master. Despite his efforts, the Inquisitor forcefully repelled Ezra, subjecting him to psychological torment, exploiting his fears of loss and manipulation. Ezra's emotions boiled over, transmuting his fear into anger and ultimately into hatred. Succumbing to the lure of the dark side, he summoned a colossal Fernox to assail the Inquisitor. However, the power of the dark side overwhelmed him, causing him to collapse. Sensing Ezra's distress, Kanan swiftly carried him to safety aboard the Phantom as they fled the base. During their return journey to the Ghost, Ezra gradually regained consciousness, but retained only fragmented memories of the encounter. Alarmed by Ezra's burgeoning strength and the unexpected manifestation of dark emotions, Kanan realized that Ezra's growth surpassed his readiness to guide him through it. Visiting a Jedi temple. Concerned about Ezra's connection to the Force, Kanan decided to take him to a Jedi temple on Lothal for a crucial test to determine his potential. Venturing deep into the temple alone, Ezra encountered numerous illusions, each revealing his fears of losing Kanan, his friends, and facing abandonment. Despite the daunting trials, Ezra confronted his fears, ultimately standing firm against an illusion of the Grand Inquisitor poised to strike him down. With the illusion dispelled, Ezra heard the voice of Master Yoda resonating through the Force, guiding him to his next trial within a hallway adorned with inscriptions. When questioned by Yoda about his motives for becoming a Jedi, Ezra initially expressed a desire for power to retaliate against the Empire for its atrocities. However, Yoda discerned Ezra's underlying emotions of anger and fear, prompting him to reflect on his true purpose, to safeguard not only his friends, but all beings in the galaxy. Reflecting on his journey from a self-centered street urchin to a member of the Rebel Alliance, Ezra realized the transformative impact of selflessness and altruism, inspired by the Rebels' noble deeds. As the vision shifted, a kyber crystal materialized in his hands, symbolizing a significant milestone in his Jedi training. Over the following weeks, Ezra diligently constructed his own lightsaber using spare parts provided by the Ghost crew. Unlike conventional lightsabers, Ezra's design incorporated a blaster component, reflecting his reliance on ranged combat due to his lack of proficiency in swordfighting at the time. Dealing with Lando Calrissian. Following Zeb and Kanan's unfortunate loss of Chopper in a game of sabacc to the renowned galactic entrepreneur, Lando Calrissian, they found themselves reluctantly agreeing to aid him in smuggling goods to Lothal. As they embarked on their assignment, Ezra developed an immediate disdain for Lando, particularly after the smuggler expressed interest in acquiring Sabine's artwork. Matters took a chaotic turn when Lando received a puffer pig from Asmorgian, causing the creature to inflate uncontrollably and trap Hera and the rest of the crew outside of the Bridge of the Ghost. Amidst the chaos, Kanan assumed control of the Ghost, while Ezra's ill-fated attempt to maneuver around the puffer pig only exacerbated the situation, causing the creature to inflate further and inadvertently deactivate the Ghost's signature mask. This mishap led to a tense pursuit by several TIE fighters, though Kanan skillfully avoided them in a brief dogfight. Upon their arrival at Lando's farm, the rebels found themselves confronted by Asmorgian and his cohorts seeking vengeance against Lando. In the ensuing skirmish, Ezra utilized his lightsaber to fend off the henchmen, ultimately aiding in repelling the attackers and securing Lando's safety. With their mission accomplished, the crew hastily departed on the Ghost, with Chopper cheekily pilfering Lando's fuel canisters as recompense for their risky endeavor. Rescue mission on Lothal. Over the ensuing days, Ezra struggled to maintain focus on his training, preoccupied by concerns about missing the latest transmissions of hope delivered by the exiled Senator Gal Travis, echoing the broadcasts once made by his parents in defiance of the Empire. Amidst a training session with Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper focused on deflecting stun shots, Ezra was unexpectedly overtaken by a vision. In this vision, he, Kanan, and their fellow rebels rescued Travis from Imperial forces, with Travis acknowledging the bravery of Ezra's parents. Upon regaining consciousness, Ezra recounted the vision to Kanan. Shortly thereafter, Hera summoned him to watch the transmission delivered by Travis, during which the senator praised the courage of the rebels challenging the Empire's oppression, and hinted at a rendezvous at the Old Republic Senate building on Lothal. Concerned about the possibility of an Imperial trap, Ezra sought information from Zer, learning of the Empire's anticipated ambush. Meeting with his fellow rebels at his family's shuttered residence, Ezra joined Sabine in examining the transmission equipment once used by his parents, further cementing his resolve to confront the Empire's tyranny and continue his parents' legacy of resistance. Upon utilizing the sewers as a covert passage to reach the Senate building, the team encountered Imperial resistance, prompting a hasty retreat with Travis in tow. In the face of overwhelming odds, the Ghost crew divided their forces, with Kanan, Zeb, and Sabine engaging stormtroopers to buy time. Meanwhile, Hera and Ezra escorted Travis towards an alternate exit, only to discover it was a dead end. In a desperate move, Hera armed Travis with a blaster for self-defense, unaware of his treacherous allegiance to the Empire. Travis, amused by Ezra's naivete, confessed to his role as an Imperial informant, tasked with identifying and eliminating rebel sympathizers under the guise of accidents. Shocked by this revelation, Ezra confronted Travis, citing his transmissions as reminiscent of his parents' defiance against the Empire. Acknowledging Ezra's lineage, Travis criticized the Bridger's idealism and advocated for aligning with the Empire for survival. As Hera intervened, Travis attempted to betray her, only to realize the blaster was unloaded, thwarting his scheme. With the team regrouped, Hera delivered a decisive blow to Travis before departing from the compromised location. Broadcasting the truth. Ezra felt disheartened by Travis's deceit, prompting the team to devise an alternative plan, broadcasting their own message via Lothal's Imperial Broadcasting Tower. However, their efforts were swiftly thwarted when the Empire anticipated their move, resulting in Kanan's capture. Despite this setback, they managed to transmit the broadcast, but their victory was short-lived as Grand Moff Tarkin promptly ordered the destruction of the tower. Searching for Kanan. Against Hera's directive, the team embarked on a rescue mission for Kanan, defying Fulcrum's advice. Ezra persuaded Vizago to assist them by revealing Kanan's Jedi status and his own. With Vizago's guidance, Ezra learned about the Imperial droids harboring valuable information. Utilizing a droid decoy, they infiltrated Imperial ranks and discovered Kanan's destination, the volcanic world of Mustafar. Securing an Imperial freighter, Ezra and his allies journeyed to Mustafar. They utilized a TIE fighter stolen earlier to breach Tarkin's Star Destroyer, intending to disable it with an electromagnetic pulse. However, Imperial reinforcements arrived, forcing them to seal off their route to Kanan. Undeterred, Ezra maneuvered through the air vents, freeing Kanan from captivity. Their reunion was short-lived as they encountered the Grand Inquisitor. In a fierce lightsaber duel, Ezra was knocked off the platform, leaving Kanan to believe him dead. Following the Inquisitor's defeat, Ezra emerged, scarred but alive, having narrowly escaped death. As the Sovereign faced destruction, he and Kanan commandeered the Grand Inquisitor's TIE Fighter, joining forces with the other rebel cells rallied by Senator Organa and led by Ahsoka Tano, a former Jedi comrade. The Siege of Lothal. In the following weeks, Ezra and his fellow rebels integrated into a broader rebellion, joining forces with Phoenix Squadron. Despite Lothal being besieged, Minister Maketh Tua reached out to the rebels for asylum and offered vital information about the Empire's presence on Lothal. While others hesitated due to distrust, Ezra sensed genuine fear in Tua's plea, compelling him to assist her. Upon their arrival on Lothal, they discovered a deteriorating situation, with increased Imperial presence exacerbated by Tua's death, staged by Darth Vader to frame the rebels. With the Empire turning Lothal against them, the rebels had no choice but to abandon their home, although Ezra initially resisted the idea of fleeing. Under tight security, Ezra and his companions covertly infiltrated the Imperial complex's spaceport to commandeer a shuttle. However, they encountered a chilling sensation, recognized by Kanan as emanating from the dark side. Confronted by Darth Vader himself, they attempted to fight but were swiftly overpowered. Ezra narrowly escaped decapitation by his own lightsaber, a testament to Vader's overwhelming power. Realizing they were no match for Vader, the rebels retreated, opting not to venture into space to avoid potential Imperial traps. Despite Ezra's desire to confront Vader, Kanan explained the futility of such an endeavor against a Sith Lord of Vader's caliber. Seeking aid, the crew headed to Lando's farm for assistance in leaving Lothal. Though Lando was absent, his droid W1LE provided support. Upon arrival, Ezra observed smoke rising from Tarkin Town, prompting him to investigate. Finding the town destroyed and its inhabitants likely captured by the Empire, Ezra returned to Lando's farm. The rebels executed their plan successfully, evading the Imperial blockade and bidding farewell to Ezra's homeworld. Upon their return to the rebel fleet, Chopper detected a tracker activated on the shuttle, alerting them to Darth Vader's pursuit. Ezra and his fellow rebels hurriedly boarded the Ghost, engaging Vader's TIE Fighter in a fierce dogfight, with Ezra operating the nose gun. Despite their efforts, Vader managed to obliterate the squadron's command ship, Phoenix Home, compelling the crew to abandon ship and retreat via escape pods to the remaining vessels as they fled into hyperspace. However, before falling into the clutches of a waiting Star Destroyer's tractor beam, the Ghost crew narrowly evaded capture. Ezra remained plagued by questions about Darth Vader's identity, but Ahsoka, the only one with answers, chose to withhold them. Journey with Phoenix Squadron. Meeting the clones. Following the destruction of the Phoenix Home, the Rebel network faced a scarcity of bases and facilities. When Ezra proposed relocating the Phoenix Rebel cell to a distant system, Ahsoka advised him and his comrades to seek out an old ally, a former Republic captain named Rex. Ezra and the Ghost crew journeyed to the desert planet of Selos, but upon exiting hyperspace, the Ghost sustained damage. While Hera and Chopper remained behind to repair the freighter, Ezra and the other rebels descended to Selos aboard the Phantom. After traveling a distance, they spotted an outdated ATTE walker in the distance and disembarked from the Phantom to meet its occupants, who turned out to be clone commanders. Amidst brewing tension triggered by Kanan's distrust of clone troopers, they were greeted by Rex, who swiftly intervened to defuse the situation. Ezra informed Rex that they were sent by Ahsoka in search of him, leading Rex to welcome them as allies and introduce his comrades, Wolf and Gregor. While Rex and Gregor were receptive, Wolf remained hostile toward the rebels. Inside the walker, Ezra endeavored to persuade the clone commanders to join their resistance against the Empire. However, Rex declined, stating that his days as a soldier were behind him. Inquiring about abandoned bases and facilities, Kanan received an offer from Gregor, who proposed exchanging the information for the rebels' assistance in a Jupa hunt. Despite Kanan's reservations and recounting of the Jedi Purge, Rex explained that he and his fellow clones had removed their brain control chips, enabling them to defy Order 66. Following a perilous yet triumphant Jupa hunt, the rebels reluctantly accepted dinner invitations. Regrettably, Sabine uncovered Wolf's clandestine communication with the Empire, where he had concealed Ahsoka's messages to the clones. Acting under the misconception of shielding his fellow clones from Imperial repercussions, Wolf was confronted by Rex, who persuaded him that rebels were allies, not foes. An Imperial droid damaged the Phantom before Rex neutralized it. With the Empire now aware of their presence on Selos, the rebels readied themselves to depart. Fulfilling their agreement, Rex provided the rebels with a data chip detailing Republic bases in the Outer Rim, and opted to remain behind to delay the Empire's advance. Agent Kallus arrived with 3 formidable AT-AT walkers, overpowering the clone's solitary AT-TE. This assault coincided with the onset of a sandstorm, impeding the rebels' escape. Nonetheless, Ezra and Kanan relied on the Force for guidance. Guiding the clones in their ATTE, Kanan aided Ezra in targeting and obliterating one of the AT-ATs with a single cannon blast to the neck. Once the sandstorm dissipated, the rebels departed aboard the Phantom, but Ezra persuaded Kanan to return and assist the clones. While Sabine piloted the Phantom, Ezra, Kanan, and Zeb commandeered one of the AT-ATs, using it to incapacitate Callus's walker, which ensnared the clone's walker. With Callus and the remaining Imperials forced into retreat, Rex and the clones, grateful for their assistance, saluted Ezra and Kanan, pledging their allegiance to the rebellion. Encountering double trouble. Continuing his Jedi training, Ezra's latest task involved levitating Chopper with the Force. However, Chopper and Sabine orchestrated a prank by locking the astromech droid's feet to the Ghost's metallic floor. Despite Ezra's earnest attempts, he couldn't lift Chopper. Frustrated, Ezra abandoned the elevator, only for Rex to reveal Chopper and Sabine's trickery. As Hera tasked Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper with retrieving supplies from an abandoned Republic medical station, Ezra stealthily joined them to avoid involvement in Kanan and Rex's dispute over discipline and wit. Upon their arrival and Chopper's activation of the station, Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb scoured for supplies, unaware that their presence had drawn the attention of recently dispatched Inquisitors, the fifth brother and the seventh sister. Using her ID-9 seeker droids, the sister incapacitated Chopper before luring Ezra and Sabine into a hallway. Despite engaging the sister in a duel, Ezra found himself outmatched. The brother then joined the fray, prompting Ezra to open a sealed door for Sabine's escape. While the brother prepared to strike them down, the sister intervened, persuading him to use Ezra as bait to capture the others. Later, while the sister questioned the young Jedi regarding the rebel fleet and Ahsoka, the brother arrived where they captured Sabine. Attempting to pressure Ezra into contacting his fellow rebels, they met his resistance. Eventually, Zeb reached out to Ezra after rescuing Chopper, posing as Commander Miloran and offering assistance. To safeguard Zeb, Ezra initially hesitated to respond, but when the brother threatened Sabine, he reluctantly agreed. Guided into Hangar Bay 6 by their Inquisitor captors, Ezra and Sabine found themselves cornered. However, Zeb created a diversion with the Phantom, allowing them to break free and board the attack shuttle. After a brief struggle, the four rebels fled with medical supplies, returning to the rebel fleet. Back on the Ghost, they briefed Kanan, Hera, and Rex about their encounter with the Inquisitors, shocking Kanan, who was unaware of the existence of multiple Inquisitors. Working with a pirate. Later, the crew of the Ghost and Rex established a base on Garel, where Ezra decided to skip one of his Jedi lessons with Kanan to attend a blaster training session head by Rex. When Kanan learned of this, he debated with Rex about Ezra's future path as either a soldier or a Jedi. Ezra, frustrated, expressed his desire to be neither if that was the case. During a mission on the Ghost, Hera announced a mission to supply power fuel cells to Rin, leaving Ezra and Chopper behind to tidy up the ship. While performing their chores, they received a distress call from Vizago and headed off on the Phantom to find Vizago's ship, the Broken Horn, encountering Hondo Onaka, who claimed ownership of the ship after winning it from Vizago in a sabacc match. Doubting Hondo's honesty, Ezra posed as Lando, and when Imperials attacked, he instructed Chopper to prepare for a hyperspace jump. After their escape, Ezra agreed to assist Hondo in selling power generators to Asmorgian on Nixus, in exchange for 2 generators and a share of the profits, while also secretly pocketing Vizago's droid controller for safekeeping. Upon arrival at the black market spaceport, Nixus Hub 218, they discovered Asmorgian was the buyer, expecting Vizago. Asmorgian attempted to dispose of them in space, but Chopper intervened, allowing Ezra to free himself and protect Hondo using his lightsaber and the Force, revealing his Jedi identity. As they left Nixus, Ezra shared his concerns about his new responsibilities with Hondo, who suggested he become a pirate Jedi. However, while exploring the brig, Ezra and Chopper found Vizago locked inside a cell. Vizago revealed Hondo's deception, and after confronting Hondo, Ezra attempted to negotiate a deal between the two criminals. However, Vizago reclaimed his droid controller and unleashed his droids on them. Hondo escaped on the Phantom with the profits, and Vizago ejected Ezra and Chopper in an escape pod, sending them back to Garel. Returning to the Ghost, they found Hondo among the rebels, and learned that the Phantom's autopilot was programmed to return to the Ghost. The rebels took the power generators, allowing Hondo to keep the profits, and Ezra reunited with his companions after bidding farewell to Hondo. Mission to Ibar. Ezra and his fellow rebels later engaged in a mission to deliver relief supplies to Ibar, which was under an Imperial blockade led by Agent Callus. After the initial attempt failed, resulting in the destruction of a rebel transport and the loss of the Phoenix leader, the Ghost crew set out to contact Quarry, an engineer residing on the inaccessible Shantipole. Quarry, a Mon Calamari known for developing the B-Wing starfighter, was sought to break the blockade. While Hera, Sabine, and Zeb journeyed to Shantipol aboard the Phantom, Kanan, Ezra, and Chopper met with a transport ship to gather supplies for their next blockade-breaking attempt. With Hera's absence and Kanan's suggestion to utilize the Ghost for supply transport, Ezra expressed concern, knowing it would make the Ghost an easy target for the Empire. Despite the risks, Kanan emphasized the importance of not giving up, especially since the people of Ibar were relying on them. Even after Kanan's reassurances, Hera and the missing crew did not return. As the Ghost and the Phoenix fleet converged on Ibar, they were eventually joined by the Phoenix carrying the B-Wing. Hera piloted the Starfighter, successfully destroying the Architens-class cruiser, allowing the Ghost to navigate the gap in the blockade and deliver the much-needed supplies to Ibar. Following this successful mission, Hera was promoted to the new leader of the Phoenix at Kanan's recommendation. Mishap at Garel City. Later, Hera assigned Ezra to join Sabine and Chopper on a mission to retrieve a courier with sensitive data at Garel City's spaceport. Although unaware of the courier's appearance, the rebels were instructed to use the code phrase, "It's a long way to Alderaan," to transport him to Havoc Station. En route to the spaceport, Ezra engaged Sabine in a discussion about her solitary tendencies, observing her preference for solo missions, frequent seclusion in her room, and solitary dining habits. Sabine, focused on the mission, remained silent until she recognized a familiar symbol on the spaceport wall. After hours of waiting and greeting passengers, Ezra identified the courier as EG-86, a GNK power droid accompanying the cargo. However, their plans were disrupted when they encountered Ketsu Onyo, a former classmate of Sabine's from the Imperial Academy on Mandalore, now working for the Black Sun Syndicate. Ketsu intended to retrieve EG-86 for the Black Sun. Refusing to hand over EG-86, Sabine confronted Ketsu just as stormtroopers arrived, sparking a chaotic three-way battle. Despite being hit by laser fire and falling out of the shuttle, Ezra managed to evade the stormtroopers and return to the Ghost. Meanwhile, Sabine and Chopper, after reaching a truce with Ketsu, successfully completed the mission and returned to the base on Garel. When Ezra attempted to converse with Sabine and Ketsu upon their return, they excluded him from their conversation, hinting at a close bond between them. Despite this, Ezra asked Sabine if they'd like to see Ketsu again, to which Sabine responded optimistically, indicating that their encounter wasn't the end of their association. Escaping the Imperial Interdictor. After a rebel patrol went missing in the Del Zenith system, Hera proposed to Commander Jun Sato that Ezra's Jedi abilities could aid the mission, leading to Ezra accompanying Sato on the search for the lost patrol. While traversing hyperspace, Ezra detected a sudden disturbance in the Force. Shortly thereafter, Sato's CR-90 Corvette was yanked out of hyperspace by an Imperial Interdictor, a cutting-edge warship equipped with 4 gravity well projectors. Despite Sato managing to transmit a distress signal, the Corvette lost power and was drawn into the ventral hangar of the Interdictor, where Imperial forces seized them as prisoners. Guided by stormtroopers, Ezra and Sato were escorted to the Interdictor's commanding bridge, where they confronted Admiral Brom Titus, the ship's commanding officer. Though Sato asserted they were members of the corporate alliance, Titus saw through the ruse and promptly identified them, alerting Agent Kallus of their capture. Despite Kallus's warnings regarding underestimating the young Jedi, Admiral Titus doubted Ezra's ability to threaten his ship and crew. Ordering 3 stormtroopers to escort Ezra to a secure cell, the Jedi used the Force to free himself, seizing his lightsaber and incapacitating the troopers before locking them in his cell. Moments later, encountering 2 more stormtroopers, Ezra stunned them with his lightsaber blaster. However, upon realizing that he had unwittingly subdued his own master, Captain Rex and Chopper, who were sent by Hera for their rescue, Ezra was taken aback. Upon Kanan and Rex regaining consciousness, Ezra attempted to fabricate a story about their involvement in a significant firefight, but Chopper revealed the truth through a holographic recording. While Kanan was incensed by his apprentice's actions, Rex took it in stride and laughed it off. Their ensuing argument over the rescue mission's approach led Ezra to join Chopper on a mission to disable the Interdictor's gravity well projectors. Given that the reactor core was guarded by Imperial technicians, Chopper directed Ezra to create a distraction while he accessed a terminal to deactivate the gravity. With the gravity temporarily disabled, the technicians were unable to retaliate against Ezra, allowing Chopper to complete the task. Once finished, Chopper restored the gravity, causing the technicians to fall while Ezra clung to a platform. Reuniting with Kanan, Sato, and the rest of the crew, Ezra and the rebels returned to Sato's Corvette per Kanan's instructions via comlink. Following Kanan's successful rescue of Rex, the rebels prepared to jump to hyperspace, but Titus activated the remaining gravity well projectors. Thanks to Chopper's sabotage, however, the projectors malfunctioned, leading 2 nearby Imperial light cruisers to collide with the warship, resulting in their destruction. Escaping the explosion, Ezra and the rebels entered hyperspace. Acknowledging Chopper's pivotal role, Ezra reassured the droid that their success was a team effort. Commander Sato expressed gratitude to Kanan, Rex, and Ezra for their rescue, prompting Ezra to commend Kanan and Rex's teamwork. Rescuing Force-sensitive infants. During Ahsoka's visit to Garel, Ezra inadvertently overheard a conversation between her and Kanan inside Kanan's cabin. Ahsoka revealed her investigation into Darth Vader and his Inquisitors, uncovering their mission to capture Force-sensitive infants, which led to the discovery of 2 sets of coordinates. She tasked Kanan with investigating one set while assigning Ezra to accompany him, knowing that Ezra had been eavesdropping. Alongside Zeb and Chopper, Ezra and Kanan journeyed to Hammer Town on Takobo aboard the Phantom. Zeb and Chopper stayed behind at the spaceport to scout for signs of the Inquisitors, while Ezra and Kanan investigated the home of an Ithorian named Ura, who had sent her son Pipe into hiding with a courier droid upon the Inquisitors' arrival. Determined to keep the child safe, Ezra and Kanan pledged to protect him. Meanwhile, Zeb and Chopper located the Inquisitors' TIE fighters and rescued another infant named Alora from Ahsoka's coordinates. While Zeb intercepted the courier droid carrying Pipe, the Inquisitors pursued. Ezra and Kanan rushed to join Zeb upon learning of his situation, encountering one of the sisters' seeker droids outside the apartment block. Dodging the seeker droid and the Inquisitors, the rebels regrouped with Zeb in an apartment room. However, Ezra's presence unsettled Pipe, alerting the Inquisitors to their location. As the Inquisitors threatened them with their lightsabers, Ezra struggled to calm the baby, prompting the rebels to split up. While Kanan and Zeb confronted the Inquisitors, Ezra sought refuge in a ventilation shaft with Pipe, eventually soothing the infant through the Force. Despite the Inquisitors' attempts to flush them out, Kanan and Zeb intervened, allowing Ezra to escape with Pipe. Reuniting at the spaceport, the rebels, along with Chopper, found themselves trapped as the Inquisitors closed in. Despite the odds, Ezra refused to surrender the child. However, before the Inquisitors could act, Ahsoka emerged and defeated them in a duel. Seizing the opportunity, the rebels fled aboard the Phantom, rescuing Ahsoka from an Imperial patrol before jumping into hyperspace. During their journey, Ahsoka revealed that a similar scheme to abduct children had occurred during the Clone Wars. Unbeknownst to Ezra, his casual remark about welcoming Pipe to Garel had been overheard by the sisters' seeker droid, revealing the rebels' location. Making peace with the past. While resting in his bunk aboard the Ghost, Ezra was visited by a Force vision depicting his parents, an imminent Imperial assault on Garel, and a white Lothcat guiding him to a hooded figure who attacked him. Startled, Ezra alerted Hera and Kanan. Hera finally revealed to Ezra what Sibo had confided in her. His parents were alive, but imprisoned within the extensive network of Imperial penitentiaries scattered across the galaxy. Despite her efforts to locate them, Hera had been unsuccessful. Grateful for the disclosure, Ezra retreated to his bunk to reflect on a hologram of his parents. Later, Hera and Kanan received intel from Commander Sato regarding a prison breakout on Lothal and obtained a list of the escapees. Believing that one of them might hold clues to finding Ezra's parents, Kanan instructed Ezra to use his Force abilities to examine the list. Guided by his vision, Ezra identified an inmate known as Prisoner X-10. With Sabine's report of Imperial fleet withdrawal from Lothal, Ezra interpreted it as a sign to return to his homeworld. Kanan persuaded him to bring the rest of the Ghost crew along. Amidst their preparations, Hera contacted Zeb and Chopper, who were being pursued by stormtroopers in Garel City. Simultaneously, an Imperial fleet descended upon the city to quash the rebel presence. Ezra and Kanan aided Zeb and Chopper's escape back to the Ghost while fending off stormtroopers. But the arrival of the Inquisitors, the 7th sister and 5th brother, escalated the situation. Kanan intervened, sealing blast doors to shield them from the Inquisitors, allowing the rebels to flee aboard the Ghost. Ezra, Kanan, and Chopper then detached in the Phantom to head for Lothal, while Hera, Sabine, and Zeb remained aboard the Ghost to evacuate the Phoenix Squadron. Maneuvering through the Imperial fleet, they entered hyperspace and arrived above Lothal, landing in Capital City. Exploring Ezra's devastated childhood home, they encountered the white Lothcat from his vision, which led them on a chase through the city. Though Ezra planted a locator on the Lothcat's speeder, it escaped into the wilderness. Tracking the locator, they discovered Ryder Azadi, Prisoner X-10, who had been governor of Lothal and was imprisoned for his anti-Imperial activities. At his hideout, Ryder revealed that Ezra's parents had perished during a failed breakout inspired by Ezra's broadcasts. That night, Ezra received another vision where his parents praised his accomplishments and encouraged him to remain resolute. Sharing his experience with Kanan, the Jedi reminded Ezra of the Force's belief in life beyond death, offering solace in the enduring presence of his parents. Rendezvous with a royal guest. Communicating with Hera, the revelation about Ezra's parents deeply affected the rest of the rebels, who sympathized. Fortunately, Hera shared some positive news. Senator Organa dispatched reinforcements in the form of 3 Hammerhead corvettes led by his adoptive daughter, Leia. Despite his grief, Ezra remained committed to the mission of meeting Princess Leia in Jalath City. However, upon arrival, they found Imperial forces under the command of Lothal's Imperial supply master, Yogar List, guarding Leia. To evade detection, they disguised themselves as a stormtrooper and cadet and infiltrated one of the ships as Leia disembarked. Disguised, they overheard List informing Leia of increased security measures around the ships, including gravity locks and additional troops. Leia, unfazed, requested the use of List's landing craft to commence her relief efforts, with Ezra and Kanan accompanying her. Returning to Ryder's hideout, they encountered stormtroopers arresting Ryder and Chopper. In their stormtrooper guise, Ezra and Kanan offered to escort them back to prison. However, tensions escalated when the troopers were ordered to execute Ryder. The sudden arrival of the Ghost sparked a skirmish, during which Ezra and Kanan staged Leia's fake abduction to divert attention. Seeing an opportunity, Leia inspired the crew to devise a plan to commandeer all 3 ships. Ryder offered his expertise, proposing explosives to disable the gravity locks. As Ezra and Kanan engaged List and his men, the rebels unlocked 2 ships and departed. Ezra, tasked with securing the 3rd Corvette for Ryder, faced resistance from AT-AT walkers. Upon taking off in the 2nd Corvette, Ezra stunned Leia as a ruse to avoid suspicion. Escaping into hyperspace, the Ghost crew celebrated their successful acquisition of all 3 ships. Inspired by the rebellion's growth, Ryder agreed to join the cause in honor of Ezra's parents. Trouble with the Concord Dawn Protectors. The Ghost crew received distressing news about Hera and Sabine's unsuccessful mission to negotiate safe passage through the Concord Dawn system from its protectors. Commander Fen Rao, the leader of the Protectors, had allied with the Empire, resulting in an attack on Hera's Phoenix Squadron fleet. Several A-Wing starfighters were destroyed, and Hera was critically injured. Ezra attempted to console Sabine, who blamed herself for Hera's condition, promising to seek justice against the Protectors. Sabine suggested destroying the Protectors' Fang fighters to neutralize the threat, tracing them to Concord Dawn's 3rd moon. However, Kanan, recalling Rao as a former fighter instructor pilot for the Republic, proposed a stealthier approach. He suggested infiltrating the base to destroy the Fang fighters before engaging with the fleet. Although Ezra and Zeb wanted to join him, Kanan insisted on going alone to minimize risks to the crew. Despite initial disappointment, Ezra complied, accompanied only by Chopper, who reluctantly accepted the mission. Sabine clandestinely joined them, causing concern for Ezra. Despite the challenges, the mission succeeded, leading to the destruction of the gauntlets, permission to traverse the system, and the capture of Rao. Transporting Lasat refugees. Acting on a tip from one of his sources, Ezra orchestrated a rescue operation to Nixus Hub 218 with his fellow rebels. There they witnessed 2 captives, a Lasat warrior named Gron and a shaman named Chava the Wise, being escorted at gunpoint from a cargo container by the Empire. Zeb, shocked to discover other Lasat, recognized Gron as a former comrade from the Lasan Honor Guard, a fact that he had never shared with his fellow rebels. After liberating the prisoners in a skirmish with stormtroopers and an Imperial officer, they were greeted by their contact, Hondo. While en route back to the Ghost, Hondo realized Ezra had deceived him about payment, but took pride in the boy's cleverness. Ezra conversed with Chava about their destination, Lyrasan, a safe haven according to prophecy. Zeb, skeptical of prophecies and his people's future, engaged in a discussion as stormtroopers closed in. To aid their escape, Hondo sealed off sections of the hallways, allowing the rebels to fight their way back to the Ghost. They narrowly evaded Callus's arrival in an Imperial cruiser, fleeing into hyperspace. Traveling through hyperspace safely, the crew of the Ghost received insight from Chava, who disclosed that Lyrasan's location remained unknown, existing solely in ancient Lasat legend. According to prophecy, the Ashla, the galaxy's spirit, foretold that the child must save the warrior and the fool to unveil the path to Lyrasan. Zeb was identified as the warrior, while Ezra, recognized as the child, likened the Ashla to the Force, known by many names. Engaging in Chava's ritual to guide her and Gron, Ezra observed Zeb's reluctance, prompting a heartfelt conversation. Zeb revealed his guilt over failing to shield his people from the Empire's devastation, recounting the tragic fall of Lasan and his role as captain of the Honor Guard. Encouraged by Ezra's support, Zeb embraced his chance to protect his people anew by aiding Chava and Gron. As the ritual unfolded, Zeb was revealed as the child. Following Gron's instruction to configure his bow rifle akin to the ancient Honor Guard, Zeb activated Chopper's staff, unveiling a map of the galaxy. To everyone's astonishment, Zeb's action triggered an energy surge, pinpointing an uncharted world in wild space. Recognizing the potential validity of the prophecy, the rebels charted a course beyond the Outer Rim. Regrettably, the crew faced a halt in hyperspace due to an imploded star cluster, dubbed the Maze to Lyrasan by Chava, which posed a grave threat with its gravitational field. Adding to their troubles, Agent Callus's light cruiser materialized behind them, aided by a tracker planted by Hondo on the communications device he provided to Ezra. With Callus issuing an ultimatum to surrender or face attack, Chava asserted Zeb's role as the warrior, emphasizing that one could employ multiple roles over time. Recognizing his destiny to guide them to Lyrasan, Zeb seized control of the ship using his bow rifle, while Ezra and Kanan supported him with the Force, navigating through the perilous maze. Despite Kallus sending TIE fighters in pursuit, they succumbed to the cluster's gravitational forces. As the light cruiser unleashed its firepower, miraculously missing the Ghost with each shot, the crew propelled into hyperspace through the cluster, rendering them unconscious. Upon regaining consciousness, they found themselves in unfamiliar territory but spotted Lyrasan on the horizon. Zeb departed on the Phantom to escort Gron and Chava to their new home. Hours later, upon Zeb's return, he revealed that Lyrasan was the original Lasat homeworld, now inhabited by millions of their kind. While Chava and Gron opted to stay, Zeb resolved to bring more Lasat to Lyrasan. Departing via a safe route charted by Hera through the Star Cluster, Ezra, Zeb, and their companions embarked on their journey, attacking the mining guild with Purrgil. As the rebellion faced a fuel crisis, the Ghost crew received a mission to procure refining fuel meant for the Empire from the mining guild, enough to sustain the rebel fleet. Navigating through the asteroid belt surrounding the guild's gas refinery proved challenging, with their sensors disrupted by the field. The crew had to divert all power to the engines, leaving them with limited firepower and vulnerable to the chilling void of space. Ezra alone heard melancholic sirens, soon spotting a swarm of Purrgil approaching. Though Hera was wary, Ezra proposed flying alongside the creatures rather than engaging them. Reluctantly, Hera acquiesced and the Purrgil calmed, accompanying the Ghost. Sensing a connection with one of them, Ezra's focus was interrupted by the arrival of the Mining Guild TIE fighters. Despite dwindling resources, Ezra and Kanan managed to eliminate the fighters. Tracking their origin, Ezra noticed the Purrgil changing direction, suggesting they follow. Sabine pinpointed the fighter's source, coincidentally where the Purrgil were heading, surprising Hera and Sabine. As the rest of the crew tended to their tasks in the cabins, Hera shared her reservations about the Purrgil with Ezra in private. Recalling childhood stories about these celestial creatures, she remained skeptical, citing instances where Purrgil collisions threatened hyperspace travel and resulted in the loss of friends. Ezra suggested that the Purrgil might be unaware of the harm they caused. Upon arriving at an asteroid overlooking the gas refinery, Ezra joined the briefing where Hera and Sabine outlined their infiltration plans. Distracted by the Purrgil, Ezra attempted to convey their interest in the gas to Hera, who redirected his focus on the mission. As they prepared to descend into the toxic atmosphere below, Sabine reprimanded Ezra for his inattention. During the descent, Ezra's misstep almost led to a fall, but Kanan intervened using the Force. Upon encountering Rodian guards, Sabine prepared to activate detonators, halted by Ezra's revelation about a Purrgil's connection to the gas. Adjusting their strategy, Kanan instructed Ezra to man a gun emplacement while he and Sabine secured the landing zone. In the ensuing skirmish, Ezra's actions allowed Hera and Zeb to land the Ghost, but a stray laser blast knocked him into the gassy atmosphere below. Upon regaining consciousness, Ezra struggled to breathe and reached for his helmet, only to watch it tumble into the depths below. To his surprise, a tentacle snatched it, revealing that it had been rescued by the Purrgil King. Donning his helmet, Ezra established a Force connection with the creature, discovering their reliance on Clauson 36 gas for survival and hyperspace travel. With the Purrgil's assistance, Ezra aided his fellow rebels in battling the Mining Guild and their leader, Yushin, using his lightsaber to fend off TIE fighters while riding alongside the Purrgil King. As the Ghost crew secured the fuel canisters and demolished the refinery, Ezra rejoined them, meeting Kanan on the ship's roof after being deposited by the King. Witnessing the Purrgil herd depart into hyperspace, Ezra and the rebels followed suit, returning to the fleet, contemplating the significance of their connection with the enigmatic creatures. Business with Hera's father. After narrowly escaping Imperial forces with casualties, the rebellion faced a dire shortage of pilots. Desperate for a base to land their fighters, Ezra overheard a discussion between his master, Hera, and Commander Sato. Sato proposed a solution: seizing an Imperial carrier orbiting Ryloth, as reported by a Twi'lek rebel cell there. This carrier could house all their fighters. Hera, familiar with the rebel cell led by her father, Cham Syndulla, a Clone Wars hero, reluctantly agreed to contact him. Accompanied by the Ghost crew, Hera met Cham along with his colleagues Numa and Gobi Glee. Despite initial tension, they convened a mission briefing where Hera outlined her plan to steal the fighter carrier using a stolen TIE bomber for infiltration. Cham, advocating for destruction due to the carrier's use in terrorizing Ryloth, eventually relented, recognizing the interdependence of the rebel cells. Later, Ezra inquired about Hera's relationship with her father while she repaired Chopper. She recounted Cham's shift from fighting alongside Jedi in the Clone Wars to prioritizing Ryloth's freedom over family after Hera's mother's death in the Resistance, leaving Hera feeling alienated and propelling her into the rebellion, a decision that strained their relationship further. Upon their arrival in Ryloth's atmosphere aboard the TIE fighter, escorted by a Twi'lek rebel ship, the rebels detached and headed toward the orbiting carrier. Simultaneously, the carrier dispatched a squadron of bombers toward the surface. To maintain their cover, 2 A-Wings staged an attack on the rebels' bomber, causing slight damage before withdrawing. Hera, piloting the damaged bomber, intentionally crashed it into one of the carrier's hangars. While she, Ezra, and their companions survived, they were betrayed by Cham and his allies, who pursued their plan to destroy the carrier. Upon awakening, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Kanan were spurred into action by Hera, who managed to free herself. They proceeded with their mission to seize the carrier and thwart Cham's intentions. Accompanied by his master and Hera, Ezra reached the bridge and held the crew at gunpoint. Using the Force, he compelled the commander to order the crew's evacuation. With Numa and Gobi in custody thanks to Sabine and Zeb, the carrier was secured. However, Cham had disabled the hyperdrive, preventing their escape. As Imperial reinforcements closed in, Hera appealed to her father, eventually convincing him to support her. With the hyperdrive under repair, Ezra assisted in fending off TIE bombers. When an Imperial cruiser approached, Ezra utilized the Force to propel a rigged TIE bomber towards it, allowing Cham to destroy both ships. Upon their return to the rebel fleet, Cham shared news of his people's resistance against the Empire. Before departing, he expressed pride in Hera. Witnessing this reconciliation, Ezra reflected on how he had fostered a stronger bond between father and daughter. Searching for Zeb near Geonosis. Upon receiving intelligence that the Empire was engaging in large-scale construction above Geonosis, the crew, accompanied by Rex, ventured there to uncover details about the Imperial weapons being developed. Upon arrival, their scanners indicated an absence of life on the planet's surface, a revelation that deeply concerned Ezra and his comrades, particularly Zeb. Nevertheless, they proceeded with their investigation, boarding one of the construction modules. Ezra, along with Kanan, Sabine, and Zeb, conducted reconnaissance, while Hera, Chopper, and Rex remained with the ship as a precaution. Unbeknownst to them, they fell into a trap, revealed when Zeb sensed imminent danger. Their suspicions were confirmed when an Imperial astromech droid sealed the hangar door, and Agent Callus's forces swiftly surrounded them. In the ensuing skirmish, Chopper neutralized the astromech, granting the crew an escape route back to the Ghost. Upon noticing Zeb engaged in a bow rifle duel with Callus, Ezra attempted to recall him, but Zeb instructed them to depart without him, as he had secured an alternative escape via a pod. As the Ghost departed, it faced relentless attacks from TIE fighters and walkers. Despite the onslaught, the rebels managed to down the enemy fighters one by one. The last TIE met its demise, colliding with an attacking walker in the hangar bay. However, Zeb's escape pod failed to appear, and it became apparent that it veered off course toward Geonosis. Ezra and Kanan set out in the Phantom to locate him, but Zeb was nowhere to be found on the planet's surface. Upon returning to the Ghost, they only had limited time to search before the Empire arrived, presumably in pursuit of Agent Callus, who must have been aboard the same escape pod with Zeb during the crash. Eventually, they picked up a transponder signal from Geonosis' moon, Barian, and headed there. They found Zeb, having survived the harsh conditions with Callus's help. Ezra proposed returning inside to keep warm, but Zeb amusingly reminded him that they'd only been standing there for 3 minutes before the Ghost departed, now with the entire crew safely aboard. Return to the Jedi Temple. After narrowly escaping yet another ambush by the 5th brother and 7th sister on Usalan Mesa while scouting for a permanent base for the rebel fleet, Ezra and Kanan deliberated on the persistent threat posed by the Inquisitors to their mission of aiding the rebellion. To safeguard the Phoenix Squadron, Kanan orchestrated a rendezvous between the Ghost and the Phantom in the depths of space, where Ezra joined Ahsoka in her quarters. There, she shared a holographic recording of her former master, the adept lightsaber duelist Anakin Skywalker. Following this, they engaged in discussions on the looming danger of the Inquisitors to the rebellion's cause, prompting them to decide on a visit to the Jedi Temple on Lothal in search of insight. Upon arrival, Ezra and the Jedi comrades journeyed to the temple, leaving Chopper behind to safeguard the Phantom. Utilizing their Force abilities, Ezra and Kanan exerted their powers to unlock the temple, revealing an alternate entrance. Within its confines, they each underwent unique Force-induced visions tailored to their individual needs. As Kanan encountered apparitions of Jedi Temple guards under the leadership of the former Grand Inquisitor, pre-Darkseid, Ezra engaged Ahsoka in conversation regarding her memories of Master Yoda. In the midst of their discussion, Ezra inexplicably vanished, only to find himself once more in the chamber where he had previously communed with Master Yoda. As Ezra's Force abilities expanded, he found himself face to face with Yoda, recognizing the diminutive green-skinned being. Yoda cautioned Ezra that with growing powers comes heightened peril. The Padawan queried Yoda about his ability to vanquish Vader and the Inquisitors, to which the Grand Master recounted the Jedi Order's downfall due to their entanglement in the Clone Wars. Ezra pondered the morality of Jedi combat and protecting loved ones, prompting Yoda to disclose his own struggles with fear-induced conflict during his lifetime. Surprised by this revelation, Ezra learned from Yoda that it's an enduring challenge for Jedi to resist the allure of fear evolving into anger. Their dialogue was abruptly interrupted by the arrival of the Inquisitors, who forcefully breached the temple's defenses. Concerned for the safety of the Jedi within, Ezra sought guidance on combating the Inquisitors. Yoda redirected his focus, emphasizing the importance of how a Jedi chooses to achieve victory rather than mere combat. Despite Ezra's assertion that they had already chosen to fight, Yoda reluctantly instructed him to seek out Malachor before departing. Emerging from his vision, Ezra rejoined his allies, hastening their departure from the Jedi Temple as the fifth brother and seventh sister closed in. Their escape was aided by spectral temple guards, delaying the Inquisitors' pursuit. Once clear, Ezra and his companions rendezvoused with Chopper in the Phantom, where he relayed Yoda's message and inquired about Malachor's significance. Ahsoka clarified that Malachor wasn't a person, but rather an ominous planet. Leaving behind Chopper and finding a new base. After identifying a potential system for their base, the Ghost crew launched a raid on an Imperial depot to secure fuel for their carrier. During the mission, Chopper got separated while pursuing a replacement leg and ended up taking control of an Imperial cargo ship in his attempt to rejoin the crew. Along the way, he befriended AP-5, who informed the rebels of an Imperial fleet lying in ambush in the system they intended to occupy. However, AP-5 also helped them locate an alternate system, Atollan. Their new base came with its own challenges, notably the presence of Krykna spiders who abducted Rex. To rescue him, the Ghost crew split into teams, with Ezra and Kanan operating separately due to their upcoming journey to Malachor. Despite Ezra's attempt to connect with the Krykna through the Force, they found themselves unable to do so, leading to a confrontation. They eventually discovered that sensor beacons repelled them and erected a fence around Chopper Base to deter further attacks. Ezra later discussed his struggles with Ahsoka upon her arrival, reflecting on how the mysteries of the Force seemed to deepen with each revelation. Visiting a Sith temple, the Old Master. Accompanied by Ahsoka, Kanan, and Chopper, Ezra embarked on the Phantom to Malachor. During their journey through hyperspace, Ezra inquired why Rex had concerns about their destination. Kanan and Ahsoka elaborated that Malachor had been forbidden to the Jedi, but Kanan speculated that Yoda might have directed them there for a reason, potentially to find a means of countering the Inquisitors. Ahsoka added that they sought knowledge to confront the Sith, masters of the Inquisitors. Upon entering Malachor's atmosphere, Chopper alerted them to another spacecraft, and Ezra glimpsed a ring of monoliths in the distance. Upon landing, they examined the inscribed monoliths, despite Ahsoka's caution. Ignoring her advice, Ezra touched one, triggering a slide into an underground cavern, where they beheld a towering Sith temple. Ezra humorously thanked Chopper for his delayed warning. Approaching the temple, they encountered remnants of an ancient battle, relics of the Great Scourge of Malachor, revealing the destructive conflict between Jedi and Sith. Kanan rushed Ezra, preventing a snide remark as they noticed a seemingly petrified figure moving, revealed as the eighth brother, a new Inquisitor. Amidst the skirmish, Ezra was separated, falling into the depths. There he encountered the enigmatic Old Master, who was in fact the stranded Sith apprentice Maul. Despite initial distrust, Ezra agreed to follow Maul to the temple, as they both sought knowledge to combat the Sith. As they journeyed, Ezra formed a bond with Maul, empathizing with his plight against the Inquisitors and Sith. Together they breached the temple's formidable doors, tapping into the dark side to gain entry. Inside, they navigated trials to reach a Sith holocron atop an altar. Through their combined efforts, they acquired the holocron, and Ezra learned to trust Maul, who saved him using the Force after a perilous leap. A brush with the dark side. After securing the holocron, Ezra and Maul encountered Kanan and Ahsoka battling the Inquisitors. Despite their victory, Kanan and Ahsoka remained wary of Maul. Ezra, however, vouched for Maul, believing his intent to destroy the Sith. This led to a tense discussion where Ezra defended Maul's motives, prompting Kanan's skepticism. Nevertheless, Maul persuaded them to unite against Darth Vader, who had been alerted to their presence. As they ascended the temple, Kanan privately cautioned Ezra against trusting Maul, but Ezra defended Maul's newfound path. Soon after, the eighth brother attacked, seeking the holocron. Maul intervened, urging them to split up to stall their adversaries. Despite Kanan's objections, Ezra chose to accompany Maul, determined to reach the summit. As they journeyed, Maul sought to exploit the growing discord between Ezra and Kanan, recognizing the boys' potential. Their path was interrupted by an attack from the seventh sister and her ID-9 seeker droids. Together, Ezra and Maul vanquished the Inquisitor, but when prompted by Maul to strike her down, Ezra hesitated. Seeing this as weakness, Maul executed the sister, warning Ezra of the dire consequences of such hesitation. He then directed Ezra to proceed to the temple's obelisk while he purported to aid Kanan and Ahsoka against the remaining threats. Following Maul's directive, Ezra ascended to the temple's pinnacle and inserted the holocron into the obelisk. There he encountered a mystical entity known as the Presence, who revealed the temple's capacity to annihilate all life. Horrified, Ezra attempted to retreat, only to be confronted by Darth Vader, arriving to claim the temple's secrets on behalf of the Emperor. Despite a brief skirmish, Vader swiftly overpowered Ezra, shattering his lightsaber. Before the Sith Lord could deliver the final blow, Ahsoka intervened. Meanwhile, Maul had eliminated the remaining Inquisitors but betrayed Kanan, leaving him blinded. Despite his impairment, Kanan used the Force to incapacitate Maul, urging Ahsoka to assist Ezra. As Vader and Ahsoka clashed, Ezra and Kanan worked together to extract the holocron, triggering a cataclysmic explosion that consumed the Sith Temple. In the chaos, Vader confronted Ezra and Kanan, hindering their escape. Ahsoka intervened, sacrificing herself to ensure their getaway. As the temple collapsed, Ezra and Kanan mourned Ahsoka's apparent demise. Upon their return to Chopper Base, they shared their grief with their companions, including the sorrowful Rex. Later, back aboard the Ghost, Ezra cautiously opened the Sith holocron in his quarters. A larger rebellion, rescuing Hondo. 6 months after the events on Malachor, life aboard the Ghost has become challenging. Kanan's frequent absence, caused by his blindness and resulting detachment, has left a void in leadership. Taking on the mantle, Ezra has assumed command, crafting a new green-bladed lightsaber and altering his appearance with a swept-back hairstyle. Despite his efforts, Ezra wrestles with guilt over Kanan and Ahsoka's fates, seeking solace in the dark teachings of the Sith holocron to protect his friends. Ezra leads Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper on a mission to liberate Hondo from the Imperial prison on Naraka. Promising valuable intel in return for his rescue, Hondo awaits while Hera stands by aboard the Ghost. Inside, they locate Hondo's cell, discovering his Ugnaught companion Turba, the source of his intel. Amidst the reunion, stormtroopers attack, prompting Ezra to call for Hera's assistance. Fleeing through a turbo lift, they engage more troopers, with Ezra wielding his new lightsaber adeptly. As they near escape, Turba breaks away but meets a tragic fate under an AT-DP's cannon fire upon reaching the exit. Caught between Imperial forces, the rebels faced a dire situation. While Sabine and Chopper tackled the Imperials from behind, Ezra employed a dark force power to manipulate the AT-DP's pilot, compelling him to attack his own troops and plummet off the platform's edge. When Sabine questioned where he learned this, Ezra admitted that it wasn't from Kanan but a secret exploration of the Sith holocron's teachings. As more Imperials swarmed in, Ezra orchestrated their escape, directing his team to leap onto the Ghost's hull as it maneuvered beneath the platform. Safe aboard the Ghost, Ezra and Zeb conferred with Hera in the cockpit. Zeb hinted at Ezra's use of a mind trick on the AT-DP pilot, prompting Hera's reprimand for losing Turba. Ezra, deflecting blame, stormed off, brooding over Turba's fate and his pivotal role in the mission's outcome. Sensing the Sith holocron's activation, he retrieved it from its concealment, seeking solace in its dark power. Encouraged by the presence within, Ezra resolved to harness his anger for strength, determined to shield his friends from harm. Heist at Reclam Station. Upon returning to Chopper Base, Ezra attended a briefing led by Hondo, who divulged intelligence about Reclam Station, an Imperial salvage yard situated above Yarma, where countless old Republic Y-Wing starfighters were being disassembled. Recognizing their potential for the rebellion, Ezra advocated for a recovery mission, backed by Rex's endorsement. To mitigate risks, Hera proposed a reconnaissance mission first. Impressed by Ezra's previous success, Sato promoted him to Lieutenant Commander, and tasked him with leading the operation. Despite the accolade, Ezra remained troubled by Kanan's aloofness, feeling disconnected from his master and the Force. Later, in his bunk, Ezra clashed with Kanan, who confronted him about the Sith holocron. Tensions flared as Kanan confiscated the device, prompting Ezra to lash out in frustration, rejecting both the holocron and his master. For the mission to Reclam Station, Ezra, along with Sabine, Zeb, Chopper, Rex, and Hondo, journeyed to Yarma aboard the Phantom. En route, they encountered resistance from a mining guild patrol at Sarita Waypoint due to their speed. Despite Ezra's inclination to neutralize the threat, Sabine urged caution, suspecting that the Empire had already been alerted. Continuing to Yarma, they located Reclam Station, only to find a dwindling number of intact Y-Wings. Their reconnaissance was disrupted by dismantler droids, damaging the Phantom. After defeating the droids, Sabine skillfully evaded detection and stealthily docked the ship beneath the scrapyard. Upon penetrating Reclam Station, the rebels encountered Ugnaught laborers. Ezra initially demanded they clear the path, but Hondo negotiated their assistance in exchange for freedom. With the conveyor belts disabled, Ezra urged his team to secure the Y-Wings for the rebellion. However, Sabine noted the need to refuel first. As they neared completion, a third dismantler droid threatened their progress. Station Commander Brom Titus, encountered earlier by Ezra, reactivated the conveyor and locked the Y-Wings magnetically, halting their departure. Ezra and Rex proceeded to the command tower to override the locks. Amidst the chaos, Ezra confronted stormtroopers in the hangar bay while Hera contacted him about the recon mission. Despite assuring her, Hera sensed his disobedience. Hondo and the Ugnaughts arrived, offering to guard an Imperial landing craft for a swift exit. Inside the control tower, Ezra confronted Titus, recalling their prior encounter on the Imperial interdictor. Ezra demanded the release of the locks, but Titus revealed sabotage. Opting to cut the station's power despite the risks, Ezra disabled the unit with his lightsaber, freeing the starfighters but sending Reklem's station hurtling toward Yarma's surface. Observing Hondo's departure from the salvage yard, Ezra contacted the pirate in jest, questioning his swift exit, typical behavior for the Weequay. Hondo, in his characteristic manner, explained his departure as another successful escapade. Returning to the conveyor platform, Ezra directed his comrades to flee with the Y-Wings while he attempted to reach the Phantom. However, as Reklem's station deteriorated, a falling crane knocked the starship off, leaving Ezra stranded without means of escape or communication with his group. Calling out to his master through the Force for assistance, Ezra found himself in a dire situation. Meanwhile, the Rebel fleet, including Phoenix Home and the Ghost, intercepted the Rebel Y-Wings, preventing them from falling into Imperial hands. With Hera piloting the Ghost, Kanan ventured into Yarma's depths. Skillfully navigating alongside the plummeting station, Kanan rescued Ezra, urging him to trust and let go. Once aboard the Ghost, Ezra attempted to inform Hera about the Phantom, but she was preoccupied with securing the ship's safety. As the Rebel ships escaped into hyperspace, Grand Admiral Thrawn ordered Governor Price to allow their departure. Back at Chopper Base, Hera admonished Ezra for his disobedience, which endangered his team and led to the destruction of the Phantom. As a consequence, his command was suspended. Later that evening, Ezra apologized to Kanan for his use of the Sith holocron. When he inquired about its whereabouts, Kanan reassured him of its safety. Ezra expressed gratitude to Kanan for his rescue, prompting his master to affirm his enduring commitment to him, signaling a reconciliation in their relationship. The two holocrons. While traversing through hyperspace, Ezra and his mentor Kanan encountered an abandoned Hammerhead corvette. They engaged in a conversation about their disagreement concerning the Sith holocron and reflected on the importance of their mission to Malachor. Upon boarding the vessel, they encountered an injured crew member who revealed that a sinister figure with a red blade was pursuing him and that the Ghost was in jeopardy. Communicating with the Ghost, Ezra and Kanan discovered that Maul had captured Hera, Chopper, Zeb, and Sabine. Maul demanded the surrender of both the Sith holocron and Kanan Jarrus' holocron in exchange for their friend's safety. Reluctantly, the Jedi agreed to Maul's terms and prepared to retrieve the Sith holocron, currently under the protection of Bendu, a powerful Force user who had formed a bond with Kanan. Returning to Atalan, Ezra and Kanan journeyed to Bendu's lair, nestled within an array of mesas. Receiving no immediate response, Ezra commented on Kanan's apparent hearing of voices. Suddenly, they found themselves surrounded by Krykna spiders. While Kanan had established a truce with the creatures, Ezra, still startled, activated his lightsaber against his master's wishes. The Krykna retreated when Bendu finally stirred. Questioned about their purpose, Ezra elaborated on their plight involving Maul and the Sith holocron. Bendu cautioned the Jedi about the peril of converging the holocrons, emphasizing that they were not just repositories of knowledge but also offered enlightenment. He warned of the potential chaos resulting from their convergence and highlighted the Sith holocron as a source of discord between Ezra and Kanan. Bendu reluctantly permitted Ezra to retrieve the holocron but issued a challenge for the young apprentice. To reclaim it, Ezra had to venture into a cave inhabited by the Krykna. At Kanan's behest, Ezra left his lightsaber behind and maintained communication with his master via comlink. However, contact was lost when Ezra found himself surrounded by the arachnid creatures. Delving deeper into the cave, Ezra seized the opportunity to apologize for recent difficulties, yet Kanan reassured him, absolving him of blame. Once Ezra forgave himself, apprentice and master reconciled. Eventually, they located the Sith holocron within a deep chamber occupied by the Krykna. Following Kanan's guidance, Ezra remained composed as he employed the Force to draw the object toward them without unsettling the creatures. Upon emerging from the cave, Bendu expressed satisfaction at the restoration of balance between Ezra and Kanan, but cautioned that their true trial awaited. With Maul unable to unlock the Jedi holocron, Bendu warned that one of them would have to undertake the task. When Ezra proposed harnessing the power of both holocrons, Bendu cautioned that once secrets were revealed, they could not be forgotten. Together, Kanan and Ezra journeyed to rendezvous with Maul. When Kanan requested that Ezra open the holocron, Ezra deferred to his master's guidance. Inquiring about their strategy, Ezra received Kanan's cryptic message to play it by ear, alongside counsel to resist fear and despair. Their destination led them to the former Mandalorian asteroid colony, Vizsla Keep 09. Upon arrival, Maul greeted them, inquiring if Ezra found the Sith holocron enlightening. While Maul engaged Kanan, Ezra was escorted to the command center by two repurposed tour guide droids. Despite his pledge to spare their friends, Maul ordered his droids to execute the captives and made another attempt on Kanan's life. Upon Maul's return, they joined the holocrons, each driven by different motives, Ezra seeking to destroy the Sith while Maul sought hope. As the holocrons united, they emitted a bright pink light. Ezra witnessed twin suns in his vision, while Maul realized Obi-Wan Kenobi's survival. Before they could delve deeper, Kanan intervened, persuading Ezra to let it go. Closing his eyes, the vision ceased. Overwhelmed by the holocron's power, Ezra lost consciousness. Seizing the chance, Maul fled on the Night Brother, leaving the holocrons behind. Upon awakening, Ezra shared his experience of cryptic future visions with Kanan, unsure if they were manipulated by Maul. Kanan reassured him of their joint pursuit of truth. Waiting for Sabine. After Imperial forces devastated a rebel convoy near Teralov, Ezra and his fellow rebels gathered for a briefing chaired by Sato to address the recent losses. During the meeting, Ezra inquired about the survival count of pilots and expressed concern over the dwindling numbers of rebellion pilots. Sato then revealed that a contact named Fulcrum had intel on Imperial cadets seeking defection from the prestigious Skystrike Academy. This prompted Ezra to question whether Ahsoka was still operative. Hera clarified that Fulcrum represented the collective of underground agents within the rebellion. When Hera tasked Sabine with an undercover mission to penetrate the academy disguised as a cadet, Ezra queried why he wasn't part of the operation. Sabine explained her prior cadet experience, while Hera pointed out Ezra's conspicuousness to the Empire. Instead, he, along with Kanan and Chopper, were assigned to accompany Sabine to the academy and ensure her extraction, along with the defectors if needed. While stationed aboard an Alderaan cruiser, Ezra and Kanan received confirmation that Sabine had successfully infiltrated the academy. Despite Kanan's attempts to reassure him, Ezra expressed his discomfort with solo missions. Upon Sabine's identification of the defectors, Wedge Antilles, Derek Klibian, and Raik Gari, she signaled Ezra to rendezvous in space. However, Governor Price intervened, deactivating their solar collectors and leaving them adrift. Ezra's vessel faced heavy enemy fire and had to retreat. After Sabine, Wedge, and Hobby escaped in a TIE bomber, Ezra's ship descended into the planet's atmosphere to rescue them. Evading pursuit by Captain Volt Scaris's TIE Interceptor, they regrouped aboard Ezra's vessel. When questioned by Sabine about his decision to stay, Ezra explained he remained as a precaution. With their mission accomplished, the rebels made their escape into hyperspace. Back at Chopper Base, Ezra witnessed Sato officially induct Wedge and Hobby into the rebellion. Return to Ryloth. Later, Ezra and his rebel companions revisited Ryloth to deliver much-needed supplies to Cham. They intervened to rescue Cham and Numa from Imperial pursuit, evacuating them along with their blurg steeds aboard the Ghost. In a scuffle, Zeb incapacitated one of the scout troopers, allowing Ezra to claim his armor. At a subsequent briefing, Cham detailed the Imperial occupation of Tan Province and Syndulla's house on Ryloth, prompting Ezra and the others to volunteer in aiding Hera's quest to retrieve her family's precious Calicori from the occupied estate. Disguised as a scout trooper, Ezra joined Hera as they infiltrated the Twi'lek settlement using a stolen 614 AVA speeder bike. Meanwhile, their comrades executed a diversionary assault at the Talara Ravine. Posing as an Imperial trooper escorting a supposed rebel captive, Ezra bluffed their way past Imperial sentries. At Syndulla House, they rendezvoused with Chopper, cleverly disguised as an Imperial astromech droid. Navigating to Cham's former office, the duo recovered the Calicori. Their exit through the front door was blocked by vigilant stormtroopers. They caught a glimpse of Thrawn and Captain Slavin, leaving Ezra curious about the blue guy's identity. Attempting an escape through the basement, they stumbled upon an Imperial command center. With Chopper's aid, they devised a plan to distract the stormtroopers at the front, while Hera made her exit through the same route. However, when Hera was intercepted by Slavin and Thrawn, the latter expressed interest in questioning her. Upon Thrawn's directive, Ezra feigned allegiance and escorted Hera to Thrawn's office. There, Thrawn scrutinized the Calicori, deducing Hera's identity as Cham's daughter and a rebel operative. With Hera's cover compromised, Ezra attempted to retaliate against Thrawn, only to be incapacitated by the Grand Admiral's stun weapon. Subsequently, Ezra regained consciousness in a cell alongside Hera, where Thrawn seized the Calicori and left Slavin in charge of the captives. Contacting Cham, Slavin proposed a bargain, Hera and Ezra's safety in exchange for Cham's surrender by dawn, warning of dire consequences otherwise. Accepting the offer, Cham conceded to Slavin's terms. Despite Hera's remorse for the damage she had brought upon the team, Ezra reassured her of his reciprocal loyalty. When Chopper relayed Cham's surrender proposal, Ezra proposed an escape plan, but Hera cautioned against it due to the heavy guard presence. Instead, she instructed Chopper to strategically plant explosives throughout the facility, surprising Ezra with her decision. At dawn, Slavin escorted Ezra and Hera outside Syndulla House for the arranged exchange. As expected, Cham arrived on board the Ghost. In a pivotal moment, Chopper triggered the explosive per Hera's directive, creating chaos among the Imperials and facilitating the rebels' escape aboard the Ghost. Thrawn permitted their departure as part of his experiment. Subsequently, Ezra reunited with the Ghost crew and Cham's rebels in Ryloth's wilderness. While Hera expressed her love and gratitude, Zeb playfully teased Ezra with a noogie. Peacemaker on Agamar. Later, Ezra joined Kanan, Zeb, Chopper, and Rex on a mission to salvage proton bombs from a wrecked Separatist supply ship on Agamar. During their time with Rex, Ezra and the team delved deeper into the history of the Clone Wars. Ezra's casual handling of a B-1 battle droid's head sparked a somber response from Rex, who recounted the devastation caused by such droids during the war. Soon they stumbled upon the transport's munitions depot, brimming with proton bombs. However, their progress was abruptly halted when they found themselves ensnared in a ray shield and captured by a group of battle droids led by B-1268. Upon regaining consciousness, they discovered they were prisoners of the super tactical droid Kalani, who had disregarded the shutdown order issued after Order 66. Recognizing Rex's identity as a clone trooper, Kalani aimed to conclude the Clone Wars with a victory for the Separatist droid army. While Rex, Kanan, and Zeb refused to engage, Ezra spotted an opportunity to secure the much-needed proton bombs for the rebellion. In exchange for participating in a combat simulation, Ezra negotiated Zeb's release, designated as a hostage, and the acquisition of the proton bombs should they emerge victorious. Agreeing to the terms, Kalani ordered his droids to prepare for the simulation. Outside the hangar bay, Kalani briefed the rebels on their objective, reaching the command bridge. Launching a wave of battle droids, Ezra, Kanan, and Rex executed the sword and shield maneuver, deflecting blaster bolts and deploying grenades to repel the droid assault. Their coordinated efforts allowed them to breach the hangar and confront several droidicas. Faced with impenetrable deflector shields, Ezra proposed collapsing a catwalk onto the droids. With Rex and Kanan providing cover, Ezra set out to execute the plan. Along the way, he encountered Chopper, who had managed to send a distress signal and locate a Sheathipede-class shuttle. Urging Chopper to prepare the shuttle, Ezra pressed forward to reunite with the team. Utilizing his Force abilities, Ezra successfully toppled the catwalk onto the droidicas. Despite this achievement, Rex chastised Ezra for the delay, expressing his lingering trauma from the Clone Wars. Kanan, understanding Rex's perspective, comforted Ezra. After neutralizing another droidica, the rebels stormed the command bridge, claiming victory. However, Kalani disputed their triumph, citing the inferior condition of his droid forces. Threatening Zeb's life, Kalani was swayed by Ezra's plea for unity against the common enemy, the Empire. This alliance was cemented when Imperial forces attacked, prompting the rebels and separatist droids to join forces. Collaboratively, they engaged the advancing Imperial walkers, with Kalani directing the droids to fire at Ezra and Kanan, who redirected the bolts toward the proton bombs. These detonated near the AT-ATs, crippling their front legs. Boarding the Sheathipede-class shuttles, prepared by Chopper, they fled the scene. Despite losing one shuttle to enemy fire, the remaining vessels reached space safely. On board, Rex commended Ezra for effectively ending the Clone Wars, an accomplishment previously unattainable. Kalani concurred, though he doubted the rebels' prospects against the Empire and departed. Soon after, Hera contacted the rebels, learning of their acquisition of a new transport for the Ghost. Mission to Concord Dawn. Following the loss of communication with the protectors of Concord Dawn's third moon, Hera tasked Ezra and Chopper with accompanying Sabine and Rao on a reconnaissance mission to the moon. En route, they traveled aboard the Phantom II. Sabine assigned Ezra the responsibility of overseeing Rao, who was restrained. Upon witnessing Concord Dawn's fractured surface for the first time, Ezra inquired about its history from Rao, who explained the centuries-long conflict among the Mandalorians. During a moment of distraction, Rao broke free from his restraints and incapacitated Ezra and Sabine. Ezra was later roused by Chopper, who jolted him awake. Chopper then released Ezra and Sabine from their bonds. Upon disembarking the shuttle, they encountered Rao atop a hill. Employing the Force, Ezra disarmed Rao, seizing his pistol. The group soon learned of another Mandalorian faction's assault on the Protectors, resulting in their massacre. Amidst disagreements between Sabine and Rao, Chopper sensed an approaching presence. They soon faced an attack from a Viper probe droid, which Ezra managed to seize using the Force while Sabine neutralized it. Rao proposed negotiation with the Empire, sparking a dispute with Sabine. However, their visitors turned out to be Mandalorian Imperial supercommandos under the command of Gar Saxon, the Imperial Viceroy of Mandalore. Despite their attempts to flee, Ezra and his companions were swiftly apprehended by Saxon and his men. Stripped of his lightsaber by Rao, Ezra was unable to resist. The Imperials also captured Chopper and the Phantom II. During interrogation, Ezra attempted to deceive his captors by claiming to be a scavenger working for Hondo, but Saxon remained unconvinced and resorted to intimidation tactics. Ezra then feigned to be Lando, but Saxon persisted, compelling Ezra to disclose Rao's involvement. When Ezra professed ignorance about Rau's whereabouts, Saxon targeted Chopper, prompting Ezra to intervene with his Force abilities. Despite deflecting the shots, Saxon discerned Ezra's Jedi identity. Before Saxon could resume his interrogation, Sabine deployed smoke grenades within the building. The trio then hastily retreated to the Phantom II, only to find that Rau had absconded with the ship. Ezra and his allies found themselves encircled by Saxon and his super commandos. Saxon attempted to coerce Sabine into surrendering, but she utilized frequency 337 on her helmet to evade capture. Ezra and Sabine shared a jetpack, with Ezra clinging tightly to Sabine as they fled to a nearby canyon pursued by the super commandos. Opting to locate Saxon's vessel for escape, the rebels found themselves under close pursuit by a super commando. Sabine was forced to maneuver at a low altitude, narrowly avoiding collision with a rock. After Sabine lowered Ezra onto a rock, he leaped onto the jetpack of another Mandalorian following a brief scuffle, damaging the commando's jetpack and causing him to plummet. Using the Force, Ezra leapt back to Sabine and clung onto her as they navigated through a narrower section of the canyon. Employing grenades, Sabine blocked Saxon and his forces while under attack. Despite his efforts, Ezra lost his grip and had to rely on Chopper for transport. Finally reaching Saxon's ship, the rebels found themselves besieged by the super commandos. Just as their adversaries closed in, Rau arrived in the Phantom II, engaging Saxon's ship in combat. Ezra and Chopper managed to flee aboard the Phantom II while Sabine grappled with Saxon, narrowly escaping with Ezra's assistance. Once aboard, Rau commended Sabine's unwavering loyalty to her comrades and pledged to join the rebellion. Reflecting on the Mandalorians, Ezra remarked on their unpredictable nature, to which Rau humorously agreed, expressing his readiness to align with them. Evacuation of my capo. Later, upon Sato's directive, the Ghost Crew and Phoenix Squadron headed to my capo to evacuate sympathetic rebels ahead of an anticipated Imperial crackdown. Upon arrival in the Maikapo system, Ezra and his allies intervened to aid a YT-2400 light freighter besieged by TIE fighters. Ezra engaged the TIEs with the Ghost's weaponry. The freighter's crew identified themselves as the local rebel faction, the Iron Squadron, and managed to destroy an Imperial Gozanti-class cruiser. While Kanan and Zeb assisted with evacuation efforts, Ezra, Hera, Sabine, and Chopper docked with the Iron Squadron's ship, Sato's Hammer. On board, they encountered Thelan crew member Guti Teres and her human counterpart Johnner Jin. Noticing the disarray on board, Ezra cautioned Sabine against unsettling the crew. He intervened in a scuffle between Chopper and the Iron Squadron's astromech R3A3. Despite their efforts, persuading Captain Mart Matten to leave proved futile due to the imminent Imperial threat. Returning to the Ghost, the rebels found Phoenix Squadron had completed the evacuation. Ezra persuaded Hera to grant them another chance to reason with the Iron Squadron. Hera reluctantly agreed, warning to retreat on the Phantom II if Imperial forces arrived. Sabine and Chopper earned the squadron's trust by aiding in repairing the ship's hyperdrive. Although repairs were made, Mart redirected power to the ship's weapons and shields, intent on combat. Ezra and Sabine convinced Goody and Johnner to reconsider as Admiral Constantine approached with reinforcements. Fleeing on the Phantom II, they left Mart and his ship stranded and damaged. Ezra pledged to return for his friend before they jumped to hyperspace. Back at the fleet, Ezra participated in a briefing attended by Rebels, Iron Squadron, Rex, and holographic Commander Sato. Responding to Mart's distress call, they united to rescue him, successfully disarming a magnomine attached to the Sato's hammer by Constantine. In the ensuing skirmish, they inflicted damage on Constantine's cruiser, later reinforced by Commander Sato's arrival. Thrawn's arrival prompted their retreat into hyperspace. Ezra stood with the rebels at Chopper Base as Mart reunited with his uncle Sato and crew. Mission to Winkathu. Later, Honda reached out to Ezra, seeking the rebels' aid in retrieving cargo from an Imperial cargo ship stranded in the upper atmosphere of the stormy planet Winkathu. While Hera and Sabine harbored suspicions toward Hondo and his new partner as Morgian, Ezra vouched for the pirates' trustworthiness, citing their previous successful mission to Reklam Station. In exchange for access to proton bombs aboard the cargo ship, the rebels agreed to assist Hondo and Asmorgian in retrieving their treasure. Given the cargo ship's precarious position over a vortex, the rebels needed a strategic plan for extraction. Despite Hera's concerns about Hondo's reliability, she assigned Zeb to lead the recovery team. Ezra, displeased with what he perceived as a demotion, exchanged snide remarks with Zeb. The plan involved the team, along with Hondo and Asmorgian, leaping from the Ghost's cargo bay onto the cargo ship's upper hull. Upon boarding the ship, Zeb instructed Chopper to restore power while Ezra openly questioned Zeb's decision. The team encountered one of Hondo's Ugnaught crew members, Melch, who had survived a previous failed attempt to board the ship. Despite Zeb's growing distrust of Hondo due to his omissions, Ezra maintained that cooperation with the pirate was still possible. As the rebels entered the cargo bay, tensions flared between Ezra and Zeb when Ezra insisted on using his lightsaber to breach the chamber, despite Zeb's objections. Upon discovering the treasure and bombs, the rebels opened the cargo bay's outer door, allowing the Ghost to approach. Since landing was impossible, they utilized grappling guns to fire magnetic cables onto the ship's hull. Under Zeb's direction, the team prioritized loading the proton bombs onto the Ghost. Ezra aligned himself with Hondo when the pirate demanded to load his treasure, but Zeb stood firm. Concern arose when Asmorgian disappeared, prompting Ezra to realize Hondo's self-serving nature. As Zeb searched for Asmorgian, Ezra requested to be the one to find him, but Zeb insisted Ezra remain and load the cargo. When a lightning bolt caused the cargo ship to tilt toward the vortex, Hera ordered evacuation. However, Ezra insisted on locating Asmorgian and Zeb, who were missing. Zeb later contacted Ezra via comlink, revealing they were trapped in the ship's brig by an Imperial sentry droid. Ezra and Chopper freed Zeb and Asmorgian, encountering a sentry droid en route to the cargo bay. Despite Zeb's orders to stay hidden, Asmorgian destroyed the droid, alerting the others. While Ezra and Zeb engaged the sentry droids, Hondo and Asmorgian fled to the Ghost. Chopper followed suit. Forced to retreat, Ezra and Zeb fled back to the Ghost on the magnetic cable system, but the droids destroyed the grappling gun, causing them to fall. Fortunately, Kanan pulled them aboard the Ghost just before the cargo ship was destroyed by the vortex. Upon safely boarding the Ghost, the rebels inspected their cargo and discovered Melch stowed away in Hondo's treasure chest. With their objectives achieved, the rebels and Hondo's party parted ways. Undercover on Lothal. Upon receiving intelligence about the Empire's development of a new weapon at the Lothal Imperial factory, Ezra, accompanied by Kanan and Chopper, returned to Lothal to seek support from Ryder's cell in dismantling the factory. They rendezvoused with Ryder's landspeeder in Capital City's streets, but encountered an Imperial patrol, sparking a brief skirmish. During the altercation, Ezra and Kanan utilized their lightsabers to bring down an AT-DP walker. They then evaded two speeder bikes which malfunctioned and exploded. Their journey led them to a stone circle in Lothal's wilderness, Ryder's encampment. There, Ezra reunited with old friends, Sumar, his wife Merida, and Joe. Morad, noting Ezra's growth, praised the young rebel for honoring his parents. After discussions with Ryder and Morad, the rebels learned about the Empire's secret project in Section A2 of the factory. With Morad's assistance, Ezra and his team infiltrated the factory disguised as workers, with Chopper assuming the guise of an Imperial communication droid. Their plans were interrupted when Thrawn called for an assembly of the workers. Investigating the factory's high rate of defective vehicles, Thrawn resorted to drastic measures, causing Sumar's demise by forcing him to ride a faulty speeder bike, resulting in an explosion. As Thrawn's subordinates began questioning the workers, Ezra and Kanan seized the opportunity to slip away, aided by Chopper, who triggered another speeder bike explosion. Ezra and Kanan then encountered a scout trooper and a stormtrooper, who they subdued and appropriated their uniforms. Accompanied by Chopper, they made their way to Section A2, only to find it guarded by sentries under Thrawn's orders. Chopper infiltrated by incapacitating an Imperial communication droid and snatching its clearance code. While awaiting Chopper's return, Ezra and Kanan encountered a stormtrooper commander and his squad, questioning their presence. Fleeing the stormtroopers, they regrouped with Chopper and entered a turbolift. Inside the lift, they encountered Kallus, who recognized them. Ezra and Kanan initially attacked, but ceased when Kallus identified himself as a Fulcrum operative, using the code phrase "by the light of Lothal's moons." Though skeptical, they were convinced after Kallus recounted his assistance to Zeb and Sabine. Kanan sought Kallus's aid in breaching a communication station to contact Ryder. With lightsabers and blasters drawn, Ezra and Kanan stormed the station, subduing its crew. Kallus facilitated communication with Ryder, who revealed a diversionary attack strategy. Following Kallus's guidance, they commandeered an AT-DP walker and headed to the East Gate. However, they encountered two AT-AT walkers sent to counter Ryder's assault. Ezra attempted to deceive the AT-AT pilots, but was exposed by Thrawn. The AT-ATs attacked, and Ezra maneuvered his walker beneath one, but was crushed by the other. They escaped their doomed transport, commandeered it, and fled. Merida, firing a rocket, destroyed the AT-AT, and Ezra informed her of her husband's fate. They fled into the wilderness on Ryder's landspeeders. Later, Ezra, Kanan, and Ryder briefed Hera, Sabine, and Zeb via hologram. Decrypting the stolen plans, they learned of Thrawn's TIE Defender project, posing a grave threat to the rebellion. The Spectre of Maul. Utilizing the intelligence gathered by Ezra's team, Hera devised a plan to strike the Lothal Imperial factory. Ezra was tasked with reconnaissance duties on Imperial movements there and appointed as team leader. However, before the mission commenced, Ezra began experiencing visions of Maul within the Chopper Base Command Center. Upon spotting what he believed to be Maul behind him, Ezra collapsed, receiving care from Kanan and Zeb. Upon awakening in his and Zeb's quarters, Ezra insisted on his well-being, despite Hera and Kanan's concerns. While assisting Sabine in loading supplies onto the Ghost, Ezra, in a state of distress, mistook a rebel crewman for Maul and attacked, requiring Kanan to intervene. Realizing his mistake afterward, Ezra questioned his behavior. As the rest of the team departed for Lothal, Ezra, Kanan, and Sabine remained behind. Following Kanan's tracking of Ezra's wrist comm, they journeyed into the wilderness to meet Bendu. Ezra recounted his previous encounter with Maul to Bendu, who speculated on the negative impact of the holocron experience. Despite Bendu's advice against looking back, Kanan and Ezra disobeyed, spotting Maul observing them from a sand dune. Maul attributed their encounter to the fragmented visions resulting from Ezra's abrupt holocron disconnection. Maul disclosed his intent to retrieve the remainder of his vision from Ezra's mind, threatening to alert the Empire of their whereabouts if he resisted. Faced with little choice, Ezra acquiesced and accompanied Maul aboard his starship Nightbrother to Dathomir. Upon arrival, Maul guided Ezra through the remnants of a battle where his Night Sister kin fell to the Separatists. Leading Ezra into a cave within the Night Sister lair, Maul unveiled his preparations for a ritual, including relics from his past such as the Darksaber. Ezra's attempt to touch the Darksaber was rebuked by Maul, who directed him to seek further understanding from his Mandalorian ally regarding the Darksaber's significance. As part of the ritual, Ezra and Maul were required to drink glasses of magical water. Ezra urged Maul to proceed first, and imbibing the potion caused their eyes to turn green, emitting beams of light. Consequently, Ezra learned that Obi-Wan possessed the means to eradicate the Sith, while Maul discovered Obi-Wan's whereabouts on a desert planet with twin suns. Upon the ritual's conclusion, they were confronted by numerous disembodied Night Sister spirits demanding recompense in flesh and blood. Before Ezra and Maul could flee, Kanan and Sabine entered the cavern. Despite Ezra's cautionary words, Kanan and Sabine engaged the apparitions and became possessed by the vengeful spirits. Ezra attempted to reason with his afflicted comrades, but they attacked him and Maul under the spirits' influence. Escaping through the cave entrance, beyond the spirit's reach tethered to the altar's power, Ezra found Maul reiterating his offer of apprenticeship, citing their intertwined destiny with the twin-sunned planet. Ezra, however, staunchly refused to forsake his friends. Maul, deeming Ezra a disappointment, departed on his vessel. Upon returning to the cavern, Ezra devised a plan to draw out the possessed Kanan and Sabine for exorcism. He encountered a possessed Sabine, who threatened him on behalf of the spirits craving his body. Using the Force, Ezra expelled Sabine from the cave, dispelling the spirit possessing her. Taking the Darksaber and warning Sabine against re-entering, Ezra sought out Kanan, finding him seated above the altar in a trance. Negotiating with the spirits, Ezra agreed to sacrifice his own flesh and blood to free Kanan. In return, the spirits demanded a trial of combat to test Ezra's worth. Following a grueling battle, Ezra triumphed over Kanan, prompting the Night Sister spirit to vacate his body. Instructing Kanan to depart, Ezra obliterated the altar with his lightsaber and the Darksaber, banishing the spirits. Upon the spirits' departure, Ezra briefed Kanan and Sabine on Maul's revelation. Despite annoyance at Sabine's disregard for his warnings, Ezra relayed Maul's discovery of Obi-Wan's survival on a planet with twin suns. Determined to thwart Maul's plot to kill Obi-Wan, whom they believed held the key to Sith destruction, the trio resolved to intervene. Mission to Geonosis. At the behest of Senator Bail Organa and Rebel Command, Ezra, along with his crewmates and Rex, embarked on a mission to locate the missing Rebel leader, Saw Gerrera, who had vanished while investigating the disappearance of Geonosians. Upon landing on Geonosis, Ezra joined Rex, Kanan, and Chopper in exploring a Geonosian structure from where Saw had last transmitted a signal to Rebel Command. Inside, Ezra stumbled upon a crevice leading to an underground maze. Venturing deeper underground, Ezra and his companions encountered sealed passageways and the gear of Saw's partisans. Despite Kanan and Chopper's desire to retreat, Ezra and Rex persuaded them to press on in their quest to find Saw. Eventually reaching a dead end, they found themselves surrounded by battle droids and a droideka. Saw's timely arrival enabled Ezra and Kanan to dispatch the droideka with their lightsabers. Learning that Saw and his team had been ambushed by a solitary Geonosian who slew his comrades, Ezra and his allies decided to assist Saw in uncovering why the Empire had wiped out the planet's inhabitants. While communicating with Hera via a large ventilation shaft, they spotted the Geonosian hiding on the other side. With Kanan's aid, Ezra executed a Force-assisted leap to the opposite side, followed by Chopper. They pursued the Geonosian through the labyrinth but struggled to keep pace. Eventually, Saw, Kanan, and Rex managed to corner the Geonosian, disabling the remote control he used to command the droidekas on the surface. When Saw interrogated the Geonosian harshly about the Empire's activities on Geonosis, Ezra objected to his aggressive tactics and formed a bond with the Geonosian, whom he dubbed Click-Clack. Sensing an energy signature, Chopper located it, prompting Saw to compel Click-Clack to accompany them. When Saw accidentally dropped a compass-shaped device containing a hologram of his late sister, Stila Gerrera, Ezra retrieved it and returned it to Saw, who expressed that it was all he had left of his sister. Rex then explained Saw's ongoing grief over his sister's loss and his deep-seated trust of Geonosians due to their past alliance with the Separatists during the Clone Wars. The team soon identified the source of the energy reading as Click-Clack's nest, which housed a transmitter and a workshop. Ezra objected as Saw began searching through Click-Clack's home. Trusting Ezra, Click-Clack revealed his role as the guardian of the last Geonosian Queen Egg. Disagreeing with Saw's plan to take Click-Clack off-world for interrogation, Ezra insisted that the Geonosian belonged on his homeworld. Kanan negotiated a truce, agreeing to take Click-Clack to Chopper Base for questioning, but promising to return him to Geonosis afterward. Meeting up with Hera and the Ghost at the central airshaft, an argument ensued between the Ghost crew, Rex, and Saw. Ezra opposed Saw's intentions to transport Click-Clack on the Phantom II and his use of an electroshock device on the Geonosian. This disagreement escalated into a physical altercation between Ezra, Rex, and Saw. Ezra warned against Saw's threat to destroy the Geonosian Queen Egg, stating that it would aid the Empire in exterminating the Geonosians. Setting aside their differences, they fought off an Imperial boarding party of jump troopers from Captain Brunson's Imperial light cruiser. Utilizing the Force, Ezra hurled detonators at the jump troopers during the skirmish. After repelling the invaders, the rebels delved deeper into Geonosis. Underground, they unearthed evidence in the form of poison canisters, indicating the Empire's genocide against the Geonosians. Confronted with this evidence, Saw had a change of heart, releasing Click-Clack and the Geonosian Queen Egg, which vanished deeper underground. To evade Brunson's light cruiser, the rebels severely damaged the ship with proton bombs during their escape, inadvertently losing some of the poison canisters they intended to use as evidence. During the debriefing, Ezra assured his comrades, Bail and Sato, that they had granted the Geonosians another chance at survival. Following Saw's departure, Kanan cautioned Ezra that not all allies shared the same values and motivations in the fight against the Empire. Training exercises. Later, Ezra joined Hera, Kanan, Sabine, Wedge, Hobby, and other Phoenix Squadron members for a training session. Zeb, unable to participate, stayed behind with Chopper and AP-5, feeling downcast. Before departing on the Ghost, Ezra and Sabine tried to lift Zeb's spirits. The next day, the crew returned after Zeb alerted them to an incident the previous night. During the gathering, Callus commended the rebels for repurposing the Imperial infiltrator droid EXD-9 into an ad hoc explosive. As AP-9 began to recount the events, Ezra and his allies listened attentively until Zeb jokingly silenced him. Sabine's trials. Ezra joined the crew aboard the Ghost as Kanan, Fen, and Hera gathered to discuss Sabine's training with the Darksaber. Kanan, Fen, and Hera believed Sabine would wield the Darksaber to rally her people, but Sabine hesitated due to her strained relationship with her family. Ezra noted the challenge Sabine might face, drawing a comparison to his struggles with mastering the Force and lightsaber. After deliberation, Sabine reluctantly agreed to train with the Darksaber. Subsequently, Ezra accompanied Kanan and Sabine on a land speeder into Atalan's wilderness to avoid distractions at Chopper Base. Despite Sabine's threat to damage him if he didn't quiet down, they set up camp, and Ezra observed Kanan and Sabine's training saber practice. Assessing Sabine's skills, Kanan directed her to train with Ezra for 2 days and learn stick fighting basics, delaying her Darksaber training to prevent potential injury. Later, Fen arrived with supplies and equipped Sabine with Mandalorian vambraces. Using them, Sabine gained an edge over Ezra during training, but Kanan intervened, emphasizing discipline over tricks for survival. Displeased with Kanan's methods, Sabine stormed off in frustration to be alone. Feeling empathy for Sabine, Ezra encouraged her to persist in her training despite Kanan's challenging methods, assuring her of his good intentions. In their conversation, Sabine expressed reluctance due to the emotional baggage tied to the Darksaber, revealing her strained familial relations, with her family branding her a traitor. Ezra countered this, insisting she wasn't alone, though Sabine believed otherwise, contemplating her inability to lead without resolving family issues. Ezra highlighted his lack of a family, prompting Sabine to reflect alone in the wilderness, unbeknownst to them under Bendu's observation. Later that evening, Ezra conversed with Fen by the campfire, inquiring about Sabine's return. Fen stressed patience, citing the urgency of their cause. Sabine reappeared, apologizing for her behavior and resuming training with Kanan, observed by Ezra and Fen. As the training intensified, Sabine confronted her past, disclosing her opposition to Imperial tyranny on Mandalore, leading to her family's rejection. Tempted to intervene, Ezra refrained at Fen's insistence. Sabine's victory over Kanan brought tears, signifying her emotional release. Ezra, Kanan, and Fen pledged support for Sabine's quest to reconcile with her family and reunite Mandalorians. Saying goodbye. Accompanied by Chopper, the quartet boarded the Phantom II bound for Cronest, Sabine's familial domain, where Ezra observed her palpable anxiety about returning. Initially treating Sabine's caution about potential threats as jest, Ezra soon grasped the gravity of the situation when Clan Ren warriors launched an attack. Amid a rough landing, Ezra, Sabine, and Kanan faced the warriors, with Ezra inadvertently deflecting a blaster bolt back at an Imperial super commando, despite Sabine's caution. To their surprise, the commando turned out to be Sabine's brother, Tristan, who then guided them to the Clan Ren stronghold. Upon presenting the Darksaber, Sabine introduced Ezra and Kanan to her mother, Ursa Wren, though Ezra's attempts at friendliness sparked a tense standoff. Reluctantly, Ezra complied with the request to surrender his lightsaber, reassured by Sabine that it would remain safe. While Sabine spoke privately with her mother, Ezra attempted conversation with Tristan but found himself stumbling, prompting Kanan to advise him to let the seasoned Jedi handle the discussion. Later, when Kanan sought another audience with Ursa, Ezra criticized her collaboration with the Empire, contrasting it with Sabine's reverence for her family's heritage. He recounted their encounter with Gar Saxon on Concord Dawn, only to find himself and Kanan held at gunpoint by Ursa, who disclosed her plan to deliver them to the Imperial Viceroy. Fortunately, Rao, acting on Kanan's covert directive, intervened, returning the Jedi's lightsabers which he had recovered. Joining forces with Clan Ren, including Tristan, the Jedi battled the Super Commandos, with Ezra rescuing Sabine from one and then passing her his lightsaber to confront Saxon, now wielding the Darksaber handed to him by Ursa. Though eager to assist, Ezra respected Mandalorian tradition upon Ursa's insistence, staying outside with Rao as Sabine dueled Saxon. Ultimately, Sabine emerged victorious, with Ursa dispatching Saxon as he tried to attack Sabine from behind. To the surprise of Ezra and Kanan, Sabine chose to stay with her people, aiding them through the turmoil expected after Saxon's demise. She and Rao remained as Ezra and Kanan bid farewell, hinting that Clan Ren might consider joining the rebellion once they had secured her captive father's release. Dangerous missions. Later, Ezra joined Hera, Zeb, and Chopper aboard the Ghost, while Kanan attended a supply mission. Together, they witnessed Mon Mothma's condemnation of the Emperor on HoloNet News. Following an encounter with a tactical infiltration pod, they rendezvoused with the Chandrila Mistress and Gold Squadron as directed. Initially, tensions arose between the two squadrons due to differing tactics. However, when Imperial forces attacked, Ezra stepped in to pilot Gold 2's Y-Wing after she was incapacitated, and the Mistress's crew, including Mon Mothma, transferred aboard the Ghost. Impressed by Mon Mothma's bravery, Ezra readily agreed to escort her to Dantooine for a rebel summit. As they journeyed to the Archeon Nebula, they faced an Imperial light cruiser, and Ezra recognized with dread the prototype TIE Defender piloted by Vult Scaris. Despite the devastating attack on Gold Squadron, Ezra and Gold Leader pressed on, engaging Scaris and disabling him with Gold Leader's ion cannon. Emerging from the nebula, they found the Ghost under threat from two Star Destroyers. Through skillful maneuvering and the use of proton torpedoes, they disabled the Imperial ships, allowing their escape. Ezra then rejoined the Ghost, and after a more cordial interaction with Gold 2, witnessed the gathering of Rebel fleet in response to Mon Mothma's plea. Once again, without Kanan, the Ghost crew bid farewell to Wedge Antilles as he embarked on a mission alongside AP-5 and Chopper to secure vital codes for the impending assault on Lothal, a task that neither Ezra nor Zeb envied the young pilot for. Upon Wedge's return, they initially doubted AP-5's suspicions regarding Chopper's behavior, until they witnessed the astromech droid exhibiting an unprecedented level of politeness. The compromised Chopper, under the sway of the controller, lured the crew into the cargo hold and attempted to eject them into the vacuum of space. Fortunately, they managed to evade this fate with the help of AP-5, thwarting the controller's scheme and reclaiming Chopper from his drift in space. Maul and Thrawn. Maul, unable to locate Obi-Wan on Tatooine, utilized a fragment of a holocron to communicate with Ezra, revealing the Jedi's whereabouts. This cunning move aimed to draw Ezra to Tatooine as bait to lure Obi-Wan out of hiding. Despite Hera's orders, Ezra, accompanied by the stowaway Chopper, fell into the trap and ventured into Tatooine's desolate deserts. There he encountered Obi-Wan, who enlightened him about Maul's deception. As Maul confronted them, Obi-Wan instructed Ezra to depart with Chopper on a dewback. Together, they rode the Night Brother back to Atalon, where Ezra found solace with his awaiting family, as Master Kenobi had guided him to understand. Ezra remained on Atalon as General Jan Dodonna's fleet arrived to bolster the assault on Lothal, only to face the sudden appearance of Thrawn's overwhelming 7th Fleet. In light of their dire situation, Hera tasked Ezra and Kanan with seeking reinforcements. However, Ezra found himself alone with Chopper aboard the Night Brother while Kanan sought aid from Bendu. Amidst the chaos, Commander Sato's sacrifice allowed Ezra to escape the system, only to discover Mon Mothma's inability to send reinforcements, fearing Thrawn's trap. Left with no alternative, Ezra turned to Sabine for assistance. Later missions. Aiding Mandalore and Saw Gerrera. Ezra, accompanied by Kanan and Chopper, joined Sabine in her clan's endeavor to liberate her father, Alrich Ren, from Imperial captivity on Mandalore. Despite Ezra's clumsy attempts with a jetpack, Clan Kryze, led by Bo-Katan, intervened at a crucial moment, aiding their success. However, their triumph was overshadowed by the Empire's ruthless deployment of the Duchess, a weapon Sabine had designed in her youth, targeting Mandalorian armor. Ezra proposed abandoning the weapon, but Ulrich and Sabine insisted it was integral to their heritage. To undermine Imperial Governor Saxon, they infiltrated his Star Destroyer to dismantle the weapon and erase related data. While Ezra, Kanan, and Chopper handled the wipe, Sabine executed the weapon's destruction, enabling their escape from Mandalore. The Ghost crew, including Sabine, rendezvoused with Zeb and Hera on Yavin 4 after a failed supply mission thwarted by an Imperial relay. Tasked with tapping into the relay, Ezra pondered the efficacy of Saw Gerrera's aggressive tactics. Their relay mission was disrupted by the arrival of the Marauder, prompting Ezra's unwitting attempt to impersonate its commanding officer, Brom Titus. Joined by Gerrera and his partisans, they embarked on a mission aboard a cargo ship transporting Imperial prisoners and a colossal kyber crystal. Saw's willingness to sacrifice lives to uncover Imperial secrets disillusioned Ezra, who opted to rescue the passengers alongside Sabine and Chopper, boarding the Ghost upon their arrival. Return to Lothal. Following a transmission from Ryder regarding the upgraded TIE Defender, the Ghost crew, aided by Vizago, infiltrated the planet's defenses. They discovered the planet oppressed by Imperial rule, witnessing the tragic loss of allies like Old Joe. Thankfully, Ryder and a small rebel faction, including Ezra's friend Jai Kell, persisted in resisting the Empire's occupation. With their assistance, Ezra and Sabine successfully commandeered the TIE Defender Elite prototype along with its flight data recorder and hyperdrive. After concealing the hyperdrive intended for installation in Ryder's U-Wing, they returned to camp with the aid of a mystical white Lothwolf. Subsequently, Ezra, Jai, and Zeb ventured back to retrieve the hyperdrive, encountering Imperial forces in their pursuit. The appearance of Thra's Nagri assassin, Rook, heightened the tension as he attacked the rebels and placed a tracking device on their speeder bike. Forced to abandon their compromised camp, Hera fled with the flight recorder aboard the U-Wing, while Ezra, guided by more Lothwolves, led the remaining rebels to pursue her. Their journey, facilitated by the Wolves' mysterious means of travel, led them to the southern hemisphere of Lothal, where they stumbled upon an ancient deserted village, which they adopted as their new headquarters. Isolated from Rebel command, the group targeted a mining guild ore crawler for resources. Their mission encountered obstacles, particularly with the elusive and resistant captain, Seevor. In a confrontation, Ezra inadvertently caused Seevor's demise. Commandeering the crawler, they learned of Mon Mothma's approval for an assault on Lothal. However, Thrawn's forces were well prepared, resulting in heavy losses for the squadron led by Hera, with only Mart Matin managing to escape and join Ryder's faction. Losing Kanan, saving the temple. Much to Ezra's astonishment, Kanan entrusted him with leading the mission to rescue Hera, assuming a supportive role himself. Infiltrating the capital city, Ezra and Sabine, disguised as TIE pilots, seized control of an Imperial patrol transport. Though they successfully retrieved Hera, Kanan valiantly sacrificed himself to shield the group from a devastating explosion. Overwhelmed by grief in the absence of his mentor, Ezra found little time to mourn, as the Lothwolves returned alongside a colossal figure named Doom, warning of trouble at the temple. Leading the surviving Ghost crew members, Ezra investigated the temple. Undercover as scout troopers, Ezra and Sabine infiltrated an archaeological expedition supervised by Imperial Minister Varys Hayden, acting on Emperor's directives. With Sabine's assistance, Ezra activated a gateway within the temple, revealing numerous portals leading through time. Utilizing one portal, he intervened to rescue Ahsoka from her confrontation with Darth Vader, sparking the notion of rescuing Kanan too. However, Ahsoka cautioned Ezra about the potential repercussions of altering history, which could imperil the rebels' fate. Their encounter was interrupted by an assault from Darth Sidious through a portal, narrowly escaping his grasp. Ahsoka departed through her portal to return to her rightful time, while Ezra exited the temple, sealing it shut as it descended into the ground during the rebels' retreat. Inspired by Kanan's teachings, Ezra embraced his next endeavor, bidding a final farewell to his master as he embarked on his path forward. Freeing Lothal. Concerned about Thrawn's imminent return, Ezra rallied a disparate group of allies, including Rex and his clone comrades, Ketsu, Hondo, Melch, and Kellis. To execute their plan, which required Governor Pryce's cooperation, Ryder feigned betrayal to lure her into their scheme. A fierce battle ensued between rebels and Imperials, with Ezra facing off against Ruch. Fortunately, Hera's timely arrival aboard the Ghost and the intervention of the Lothwolves tipped the scales, securing a crucial victory. Pryce, intimidated by the imposing predators, reluctantly agreed to play her part in the infiltration of Capital City. Penetrating the Imperial complex, the rebels orchestrated a plan to draw all Imperial forces to the dome, intending to launch and detonate it from the surface. However, Rook infiltrated their ranks, disrupting their efforts as Thrawn reappeared, demanding Ezra's surrender. Witnessing Thrawn's ruthless bombardment of the capital, Ezra acquiesced, slipping away despite Hera's protests, confiding only in Sabine. Aboard the Chimera, Ezra confronted Thrawn regarding the plundering of artwork, only to be escorted elsewhere by the unyielding Grand Admiral. Within the Chimera, Ezra stumbled upon a segment of the Lothal Jedi Temple and a holographic projection of Emperor Palpatine. Tempted by Sidious's offers of reunion with his parents, Ezra grappled with his emotions, but ultimately rejected the offer, opting to destroy the temple with his powers. Enraged, Sidious unleashed his royal guards on Ezra, who fought back using temple fragments before storming the ship's bridge. His cooperation allowed the rebels to restore the city's shields, thwarting further bombardment. Ezra's masterstroke unfolded as a fleet of Purrgil, summoned by Mart through Ezra's guidance, obliterated the Imperial ships in orbit before descending upon those above the city, ensnaring the Chimera. In the chaos, Thrawn and Ezra grappled as the Purrgil propelled the ship into lightspeed, vanishing into the unknown. Leaving a farewell message for his comrades, Ezra unknowingly safeguarded Lothal from future Imperial incursions. Years later, with the rebellion triumphant, Sabine and Ahsoka embarked on a quest inspired by Ezra's parting words to locate him. And that, my friends, is the life of Ezra Bridger. For now, anyway. What'd you think of the video? Did we cover all the important events? What's your favorite moment? What's your favorite weapon of Ezra's? Make sure you let us know down in the comments and subscribe for more like this. Thanks for watching, and remember, Frederator loves you!